I don't dare put it on that side because last time.
Beginning to think I gotta maybe change my vision a little bit.
Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Monday, May 6th, 2024, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Reed?
Here?
Councilor Hessman?
Here.
Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here?
Council President Starr? Here. Councilor Dram?
Here.
Councilor Cross?
Here.
Youth Councilor Woodard?
Youth Councilor Woodard is excused this evening. Thank you very much. If you are able, I invite you to rise and all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to lead off this evening with our Volunteer of the Quarter Award. And let me get to that page. Here we go. So Tammy Saldivar was nominated by Councilor Kohler for Volunteer of the Quarter, talking about the work that you have done with the Traffic Safety Biped Committee that has been culminated with the Neighborhood Traffic Management Safety Plan, something that has been sorely in need of update to the point where some of us didn't even know it existed. It's taken a tremendous amount of work, thought, teamwork, collaboration to bring this forward from about 20 plus years back into what we're about to do and bring it into 2024. So with that, I would turn it over to Councilor Kohler to talk about your nomination.
Tammy, we've known each other for a little while. We've met a couple different times, and I just saw the tremendous amount of work that you dedicated yourself to do. I've been involved in the Traffic Safety Biped Committee for 4 years, and then Councilor Hussman took that over after he was elected. And the work that you have done and pushed that forward has accomplished more in a year than probably 4 years was accomplished the time that I was there. So I recognize the hard work, the dedication, and just the stick-to-itiveness to try to make this all work. And I like to, when I see people that are willing to do just about anything to make something happen for the city like you have done, I think it's just right that you're recognized, and that's why it took the effort to nominate you for Volunteer of the Quarter.
Well, thank you very much. Tammy, I would like to invite you up and we'll make the presentation for Volunteer of the Quarter. Tammy Saldivar, everybody. So it's truly an honor, and thank you for the work you've done in helping Keizer really make some tremendous progress. May is a very busy month in so many ways, and one of them is the Heritage Month celebrations. And so we're going to lead off tonight with the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month proclamation. Carrie Brown is here to give a presentation on behalf of the Community Diversity Engagement Committee, and then I will read the proclamation for us all. Carrie, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor Kathy Clark. I'm honored to be here to speak for the Asian, it's a mouthful, Asian Pacific Native, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders. I think I got the whole thing. I'm wearing,
Close to the microphone, then people at home can hear you.
okay, is this on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I am wearing two hats tonight. One of them is for the Older Americans Month, and I think I qualify under both. I am both an older American and an Asian American. Stephanie could not be here tonight, so she gave me a little bit of a blurb to share with you. And so, established in 1963, the Older Americans Month is celebrated every May. It's, I'll just read a couple of items from what she gave me. Led by a federal agency, the Administration for Community Living is a time to recognize older American contributions, highlighting aging trends, and reaffirm commitments to serving the older adults in our communities. This year's theme is powered by connection. And by that, it means that we are encouraging people to be connected with each other, and more so with the older Americans, to enhance the mental, the physical, and the emotional well-being of the older American community. And that is the primary focus for this year's Older American celebration. And as far as for the Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander celebration, last year I was also honored to do a small presentation. Last year I did a little bit of a historical perspective on the Chinese community, both at a national level and in the Pacific Northwest, and specifically in Oregon. And I think that last year, the presentation that I did focused upon the history of the Chinese Americans. And it was fraught with violence, prejudice, racism, murder. And so it was a pretty sad commentary about the history of the Chinese in this particular part of the country. This year, I decided to make it a little bit of a lighter presentation. So what I would like to share with you tonight are some of the cultural traditions that the Chinese Americans celebrate. So I brought a few things here to share with you. I would like to, and it might be a little bit scattered, but I thought, okay, as far as language goes, China has about 55 ethnic groups, each of which has its own dialect or language. Mandarin is spoken by more than 70% of the people in China. Cantonese is spoken mainly in the southern province of Guangdong by the Han people. And I am one of those people. I'm one of the Han Chinese, which is the largest group of Chinese, and it's about comprised of about 900 million people. So Cantonese is spoken mainly in southern China in the province of Guangdong. And when the people of China started to immigrate to the United States, they mainly came from Guangdong province. And that's the language that I am familiar with. In order to have unity in China, the government made it a mandate that everyone in the schools had to learn Mandarin so that everybody could communicate with each other. And the written language is the same no matter what dialect you speak. So that is one way that the Chinese people are united. Few things that I want to share with you is the Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is often celebrated sometime between January and February of each year. It is a lunar New Year, so the date always varies. When it happens is the first full moon of the year. That's how you remember. It's a 15-day celebration, and it's also celebrated by the Vietnamese people. And they have huge celebrations here in town and in Portland. Some of the things that we practice during the Chinese New Year is that you clean house before Chinese New Year. You do not clean house on the Chinese New Year day because it is believed that if you do that, you wash away all the good luck. And you also don't wash your hair on Chinese New Year. And I remember as a child, my mother would always tell me, do not say anything bad about anybody or about anything. So if I saw somebody out in the street who was on crutches, I remember that particular because I made a comment and my mom said, don't talk about that kind of stuff. Don't talk about disease. Don't talk about death. Because everything on that day has to be of goodness. So that good luck. And I think the Chinese are somewhat superstitious, and so that's part of that. And the other thing is that we wear something new, and red is always a color of happiness. So, and then the other thing that we celebrate is what animal are you? And so in the Chinese zodiac, there are 12 animals, and it rotates every 12 years. So the first animal is the rat. This year is the year of the dragon. I brought a couple of papers here, and I'm going to leave it with Melissa. In case anybody is interested, you can just email Melissa, and she can give you the information. So these publications here talks about what year you are based on the year that you were born. So I'm a tiger. And it also tells you about which animal in the zodiac you are most compatible with and which animal in the zodiac you are supposed to avoid. So I'll leave this with Melissa. So if you're interested, I'll give you that. One of the things that happens during Chinese New Year is that we put out signs on the front of our doors, something like this. And again, it's red with a lot of gold. And when you put these on the outside of your house, this one is a symbol for luck. So it's wishing you good luck. This one says peace and good health when you enter and go out of your, basically that's what it means, in and out of the house, good health and peace. And then one of the things that is done in Chinese New Year is that we give out something called hang baos. And I think I brought enough here that if you would like to have one, I will leave them up there on the counter and you can have one. So I've brought a variety of them. And these hong baos, which means red envelopes, are given to kids on a birthday, on New Year's Day, and it's also on your wedding day. So this one is in the shape of a tiger. So I bought this during the year of the tiger to pass out. And then last year, it was the year of the rabbit. And so I bought a couple of rabbit envelopes.
Cute.
So you get money, you put money in these, envelopes. Yeah. So if you have a kid or a grandkid, take one of these and, share with your child, for an occasion. Now, these are also given at weddings. And, I have attended a couple of several of my family weddings. And because they are in America, they do two weddings. One is a traditional Chinese wedding, and the bride, and many times the groom also, they wear red. And they wear something called a qipao, which is a long, if you ever seen that, it's a long Chinese dress. And then, and they they have a tea ceremony. During that tea ceremony, they offer tea to the parents they do the bride's parents and the groom's parent. It happens at each other's homes. And during the tea ceremony, everybody gives the bride and the groom a red envelope with lots of money. And they also shower the bride with gold. So everybody goes up to the bride and puts a necklace or a bracelet, and it's all gold. So I don't know what they do with all this gold, but that's what they do. And because the bride doesn't know who gives all these things to them, there's no such thing as a thank you card. It's just done. The other thing I want to share with you a little bit is the Chinese philosophy of yin yang, and this is the philosophy of yin. Is you see, you probably have seen this in many places. Okay. A lot of you guys know that I'm a quilter, and I do a little bit of artwork, and so this was done by me. So in yin yang, the fundamental dual symbol has to do with the interdependence of opposing forces in the universe. And you can see that in everything that we do. So the yin embodies the qualities of darkness, passivity, and the moon. And the yang is associated with light, activity, and the sun. Together, these opposing forces are inseparable, and that's what is supposed to help us achieve harmony and balance in our personal life, in our families, and in our communities. So I just wanted to share that as a message of hope for all of us in here to embrace the yin yang. And I also am leaving with Melissa a copy of an example of Chinese characters. And this is characters that is from 1 through 10. And this is how I learned in school when I was, some of you guys know that I've also made a presentation about how I grew up in Cuba. Well, when I grew up in Cuba, I went to a bilingual school. So in the morning, I had Chinese. In the afternoon, I had Spanish, okay? And this is how I learned how to write in Chinese. This is how the kids learn, okay? It's a lot of memorization, which is good for the brain, okay? Memorizing, just like we used to learn the timetables, okay? So I'll also leave this with Melissa. And if you would like a copy of this to give to your children or grandchildren, show them how, this is 1 through 10, how the numbers are written. And so that concludes my little presentation. I hope that you learned something from what I've shared. Thank you very much.
Always delightful, Carrie. Thank you so much. So I am going to go ahead and read the 2 proclamations that Carrie referenced, and I'll begin with, and this takes a while, so get ready for it. And the first one is for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Whereas the month of May is designated as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month to commemorate the immigration of the first Japanese to the United States on May 7, 1843, and the anniversary of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10, 1869, in which the majority of the workers who laid the tracks were Chinese immigrants. And whereas Asian, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community members have made significant contributions to the culture, economy, and heritage of Keizer. And whereas Asian, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander encompasses all of the Asian continent and Pacific Islands and is comprised of many nations, ethnic groups, and cultures, each with a unique identity and rich heritage, including over 100 different languages. And whereas each nation deserves the respect to be named and recognized individually herein. Whereas Eastern Asia includes China, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, North Korea, Macau, Mongolia, Paracel Islands, and Taiwan. And whereas Southeastern Asia includes Brunei, Myanmar or Burma, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And whereas South Central Asia includes Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. And whereas Western Asia includes Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Bahrain, Cyprus, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates and Yemen. And whereas the Pacific Islands include Melanesia, New Guinea, New Caledonia, I was trip on this one, Vanuatu, Fiji, and the Solomon Islands, Micronesia, the Marianas, Guam, Wake Island, Palau, Marshall Islands, Kiribati, Nauru, and the Federated States of Micronesia, and Polynesia, New Zealand, Hawaiian Islands, Rotuma, Midway Islands, Samoa, American Samoa, Tonga, Tuvalu, Cook Islands, French Polynesia, and Easter Island. And whereas the Federal Asian Pacific American Council's theme for 2024 is Advancing Leaders Through Innovation, which pays homage to the visionaries and trailblazers who have shaped our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander history and continue to influence our collective future. Innovation, resilience, and a pioneering spirit are the cornerstones of American leadership. Leaders have the AANHPI, this is their acronym. Leaders have made lasting contributions to our nation's economic prosperity, technological advancements, and social political change through ingenuity and creativity while navigating significant cultural and systemic barriers. Now therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, together with the Keizer City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So I'm going to read that one, and now I'll do the second one that Carrie referenced, and thank you to Stephanie Cross from the Community Diversity Engagement Committee for her work as well in preparing for this tonight. Whereas the Department of Health and Human Services and the Administration for Community Living lead our nation's observance for Older Americans Month, and whereas the 2024 theme of Powered by Connection recognizes the profound impact that meaningful relationships and social connections have on our health and well-being, and whereas connectedness and belonging play a vital role in supporting independence and aging in place by combating isolation and loneliness, and the problems that stem from these conditions. And whereas aging is a natural part of human life, and we as a community can and should understand and take action to care for and remain connected with one another through all the stages of life, promoting physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And whereas the Keizer community spans several generations and is enriched by the diversity of life experiences, perspectives, knowledge, and wisdom of each generation. And whereas the people of Keizer respect and honor our elders and seek to encourage intergenerational involvement with meaningful opportunities to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, together with the City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Older Americans Month, and ask all the people of Keizer to connect, celebrate, and treasure the strength our elders bring to our Keizer community. So these proclamations will be posted here and online. Thank you, Carrie, so much for your presentation tonight. It is now my pleasure to introduce Rabbi Perlstein, who will talk to us about Jewish American Heritage Month, and then I will issue the proclamation. Rabbi, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And to all who were at the prayer breakfast on last Thursday for National Day of Prayer, he was out of town and his absence was noted and he was missed. So I'm glad you're here tonight.
Thank you. Does that mean I can make up for my speech then too?
Yes, you can.
I'm just kidding. Thank you very much for having me, and it's nice to be back, second year in a row to accept this proclamation. I don't remember everything I shared last year, so if I repeat anything that was shared, forgive me, but it's probably good to hear it again. Today I sit here on May 5th and May 6th is Yom HaShoah. It is Holocaust Remembrance Day. Particularly in Israel, I know America has another one, but the Jewish people recognize Holocaust Remembrance Day today. My mother is, my grandparents, my mother's parents are both Holocaust survivors, were both Holocaust survivors. I was very close with both of them. My grandmother, if you ever read Night, the book that Elie Wiesel wrote, my grandmother were childhood friends with Elie Wiesel, and they became close after the war again. Even though he writes in his book that he abandoned God, he would come to a Passover Seder every single year at my grandparents' place. So, and then later on he reconciled that, but that's a different story. So his story from going from the little town of Sighet through Auschwitz is my grandmother's story. They were on the same train, same community, same things happened. She and her sister went to the left, to the labor, and her younger brother and mother were sent straight to the crematorium. My grandfather was one of 7, and he is the sole survivor of his entire family. 7 siblings, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody was wiped out and killed by the Nazis. After the war, they escaped occupied Germany from Russia to Vienna, eventually making home in Vienna for 7 years. And while they were in Vienna, they reunited with a couple of family members. They got married. My mother was born there. 3 of my mother and her 2 siblings were born there. And they started to build a life. And my grandfather very much wanted to come here to America because the only living distant relative he had was here. My grandmother very much wanted to go to Israel. With my grandfather's situation, not having any living siblings left or any family, they worked for 7 years to get visas to come here to America. They believed in the freedom that our country offers. And there are certain values that I think, unfortunately, slowly are being pushed aside by so much rhetoric and division that's going on in our country today, that I think they saw that we need to remind ourselves about. My grandmother and grandfather, when they came to this country with 3 little kids, my grandmother would go to the library and immerse herself every single day to learn English. And my grandfather went out and got a job, and they raised a beautiful family who today give back tremendously to the community. My mother was a principal for 38 years. My uncles are both in business and support many, many different charities, not just in the New York, Brooklyn area, but beyond. And they are the story, I think, of so many Jewish immigrants that came to find a home here in the country that officially gives us the opportunity to live and pursue happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But in order to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we have to have decent respect for each other. And my grandparents never, ever, ever complained about anything. They were never the victim of their circumstances. My grandmother would tell stories about her neighbor, and she says it was a man from Vienna, probably blonde and blue-eyed. She says he was a good man, an anti-Semite, but a good man. And I would ask her, what do you mean an anti-Semite? She's like, clearly there were things he didn't like about us. But they always knew next door that if they ever needed anything, they could knock on our door. And we knew that if we ever need anything, we could knock on their door. Even though there were differences and different opinions or biases, basic humanity was something that they still had. And it's a very powerful story to bring this point across even more, which maybe perhaps tells a little bit of basic humanity, not always, but still the same. They had a landlord for 7 years, and this landlord bought them gifts every single time they had a child, and had 3 children. She would babysit, I think, once in a while. She was very nice and very sweet to them, and they learned to appreciate her. And her last words, though, to them is that Hitler had the right idea. Now, that's not necessarily basic humanity, but everything up until then was. And there's hatred that unfortunately today is being given a platform that we as Americans need to stand up for. It doesn't matter if it's right. It doesn't matter if you think it's right. If it creates a distance where you cannot deal with another human being as a worthwhile conversation, as a worthwhile individual, it's not a just cause. And today, the Jewish people in America, as much as we are extremely thankful to the freedoms and the successes that we had, you looked at the board coming in into the room today, there's a bunch of list of different Jews who have done their best and done very well in America. There's a faction that I believe is coming from outside of this country that is wanting to divide Americans and teach us that our country is bad, and to teach us that we are bad people because of the things that may or may not have happened as we were becoming a developed country, and that anybody who does certain things and stands behind other countries outside of ours are bad people. That kind of rhetoric is dehumanizing. That kind of rhetoric creates distance between individuals. Everybody has a place in this world, and I think the message of our country that my grandparents, that my parents, that I was raised with, and that I continue to hold value and thank God every day for, is that every human being is endowed with inalienable rights to be able to live in pursuit of happiness and have respect from one another, regardless of what we stand for. People can stand for completely different things, yet you could still be able to be nice and caring. And that's I think, what's been really very much on my heart the past 6 months in particular. But as of recent, you don't have to just turn on a news station today. You realize that there's a lot of hate and there's a lot of messaging that's coming out today that is simply there to divide us. And if I had a message today that I could take from my grandparents or from the many Jews that came here to look for a better place and have found a better place and have continue to pursue that, is that we cannot allow the forces that are out there to divide us as Americans. We should be able to stand together as one. And regardless of whether or not something sounds like a just cause, if it alienates others, it's no longer a just cause. That's what I got today.
Thank you. Yes. It is now my honor to read this proclamation and to present a copy to you to take to the Shabbat community in Salem. Whereas Jewish American Heritage Month celebrates the contributions Jewish Americans have made in the United States since 23 immigrants from Brazil first arrived in New Amsterdam in 1654 in search of better opportunities and made America their new home. And whereas the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution states, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof," end quote, which creates the expectation that each of us shall have the freedom to openly practice and live out our faith in peace. And whereas as a religious and cultural minority in the United States, the contributions and experiences of Jewish Americans have often been omitted from our country's national narrative, largely due to bias, ignorance, anti-Semitism, and a history of violence against them. And whereas on April 20, 2006, President George W. Bush proclaimed that May would be Jewish American Heritage Month. And whereas despite facing persecution and racism through millennia, the Jewish people have continued to use their values and skills to contribute to the economic, faith, cultural, and governance strength and diversity of communities like Keizer. And whereas the people of Keizer desire to fully and authentically celebrate and honor the influence and achievements of Jewish Americans in our community and American society. Now therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, together with the Keizer City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Jewish American Heritage Month, and ask all the people of Keizer to join together in learning about and celebrating the tremendous achievements and contributions of our neighbors who are Jewish Americans. Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you so much. Rabbi Colson, everybody. No, those are for older American and Native. So we could do, we could have Carrie receive those on behalf of older Americans and our Asian American. So may I make the presentation of those two proclamations to you? Thank you. All right. Let's go ahead and do that. One at a time. Oh, we should do both. Is that okay? All right. We'll do a stand close. And then I'll do the people who take it by the whole. Oh, that's good. Here we go. Thank you so much for all the work you do. That's right. Very proud, everybody. All right. We will now go on to committee reports, and first up, we have the Volunteer Coordinating Committee recommendations for appointment for the Keizer Parks Advisory Board, our Youth Liaison, and the Willamette Water Trail Committee. Ms. Bissett.
Right, Mayor and City Council members, the Volunteer Coordinating Committee met on April 11th to review and interview applicants for the Parks Advisory Board for the Youth Liaison position and the Willamette Water Trail Committee. The Parks Advisory Board has an opening for the Youth Liaison. They also have an opening for the position number 7, which we're currently recruiting for. One application was received for the Youth Liaison position, and an interview was done with Liam Stitt, and the committee voted to unanimously recommend him for an appointment for next year's school year. The Willamette Water Trail Committee also has an opening for a 3-year term ending March 1st, 2027. 2 applications were received and both applicants were interviewed. And the recommendation is to appoint Jerry Netbrook to the committee for a term ending March 1st, 2027.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report or the recommendation from the Volunteer Coordinating Committee? Seeing none, Council President Starr.
I move that Keizer City Council accept the recommendation of the Volunteer Coordinating Committee to appoint Liam Stitt as Youth Liaison on the Parks Advisory Board for the 2024-25 school year, and to appoint Jerry Nutbrock to the Willamette Water Trail Committee for a term expiring in March 1st, 2027.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council accept the recommendation of the Volunteer Coordinating Committee to appoint Liam Stitt as Youth Liaison to the Parks Advisory Board for the 2024-25 school year, and appoint Jerry Nutbrock to the Willamette Water Trail Committee for a term expiring March 1st, 2027. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Do we have anybody here to give a committee report? Tammy Saldivar from Traffic Safety Bike Ped.
Hi, thank you. I just want to give you a quick recap, and I have a request for a motion. So first of all, we have our youth liaison representation now. So Ethan Eggert is with us through the summer, as I recall. So we're very excited to have that. This last meeting, we had a presentation from DKS Associates, not and, where we just learn more about the MUTCD, Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. He presented on traffic engineering and spoke about the national standards. We kind of learned how it relates to our committee and our city and what we can do with that information. So that was very fascinating and informative for us. We also looked at our website where we have a speed zone presentation that's been out there that we don't know why. So we voted to have that removed, which has been done. Yeah, so we don't know what that was about. No one really remembers why it was there. We also, let's see, what have we got here? On the climate-friendly and equitable community discussion, the committee would like to have a voice in the planning and transportation efforts. So I know I had asked more about this outside of the meeting, and we're working on how we can attend and find out what's going on with that. We watched or learned about the SCAT's top 20 high injury corridors and saw how it relates to Keizer and where our problem areas are. There was a map, and there's a lot of really good information out there if you want to know where their problem areas are. So we're going to keep an eye on those and just see if there's any way we as our committee can gather the data and learn more about and make recommendations as we see those come to us. Although a lot of the areas is River Road, which we don't have much involvement with, but we'll just pass the information along with the data and see what we can do with that. Lastly. So our attachment A of our committee resolution had language stating that our county fire district number 1 and Keizer Fire District has representation on our committee, which we realize is not really needed, I guess is a good word for it. And so Chief Blanco was there with us, and he agreed that we'll just invite them to attend when we have something specific to discuss. So with that in mind, I'm requesting a motion to amend attachment A of our committee resolution to remove the language. Do you want me to read what we want, or do you have that in front of you?
We don't.
You don't? Okay.
I don't, let me check. No, we don't.
Okay, do you want me to read it or just pass it along through Dawn and it will be addressed next time?
So I recommend, that be given to the city recorder, and, we can have staff come back with an agenda item at our next meeting.
Okay.
To make that change in what's called the attachment A, which accompanies each committee description. And that change can be made, and then that can be brought for us for consideration.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Then that's all I have as a recap of our meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, we're good. All right, thank you so much. Very much appreciate. Oh, and on the question on the climate-friendly equitable community scenario planning, Counselor Duran and I and Mr. Witham represent the city of Keizer on that regional committee, and that work is just getting underway, working with the consultant and the Department of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD, is directing a lot of that work. So that's where that happens. So I would encourage, these are all public meetings, and input that you or the committee members might have, I would encourage getting that to one of the three of us who represent the city. All right, thank you. Anybody else here for a committee report? Okay. Two for committee report?
She did raise her hand for that.
Okay. So, Ms. Christopher, were you here for committee report?
No.
Okay,
Yes. It's not to say what we did in our last meeting, but it's on behalf of KPAC regarding that small unobtrusive sign.
that,
The thing that has an X over my head that makes me feel super awesome.
why don't we go ahead and talk about that now, since it's not the elephant in the room, but it's a very noticeable change that we've been wanting to do for a really long time.
That's right. Well,
My name is Lori Christopher. I live in Keizer. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. Yes, the mayor has been quite patient with KPAC. It's not really art, but it is definitely art adjacent. And you can see, now, you should have samples, Adam.
They're going around right now.
Okay, those are how it will really look, and it will be gorgeous. So what it's going to be is, it will just be the oval, and it will be done in the white. The city of, and since 1982, will be recessed, and Keizer will be on top, and it'll be in that beautiful color of blue. And yes, we specifically, we're being very intentional in our desires to make the council chambers less of a cardboard box and more of an exciting art gallery. So you see, I call it Keizer blue, some call it royal blue. You'll see Keizer blue, and that's why we selected that color for the sign, but you see it reflected in the artwork that we choose to put in here as well. And that will continue to occur. So as I said, the mayor requested this, and this is the second iteration. The first one was not an oval, and I believe it was Councilor Reed who said, but our logo at the back of the building, or back of the room, is in an oval. And you know what I noticed? The sign that gets hit on a regular basis, the Salem Keizer, it is an oval as well.
Ouch.
So we have consistency in the ovals. And I don't think we'll have a problem with this one getting hit. So,
let's hope.
So here you have it. So KPAC took a couple of months to do this. The person that's putting it together is Smith and Steel. And Rick Smith said if you approve it this week, then he has 6 weeks to execute and we can get it in this year's budget, which is what we were intending to do. Even though it's not a KPAC expense, that would be great. And you'll have it up and running no sooner than, about July 1. So with that, I'd answer any questions, but there you go, Mayor. You finally got your sign.
So this building opened in
15 years ago.
2009, so we didn't rush things. But it would be really nice to, and this is something we discussed, way back in the day, how are we going to do this? And that sign in the back actually is something that was considered for the front, and it just didn't work quite right.
It was too busy.
It really was. So we're finally going to have, when people are watching this on television, they'll know what city they're watching, although they should be able to tell because we're just that cool.
And we measured it so that it will be right at the seam of the light beige and the darker beige, so that it doesn't look like your hair, like you've got one on your head. And so your X will go away. And then
It's been moved, by the way.
yeah, and we all did a field trip to the back of the room to make sure, yes, it's going to work perfectly.
Thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we see this on TV now, if we could perhaps get a straight-on shot to the mayor on TV. Yeah, thanks. See, that's gonna need to be lowered a little bit, so we need to make sure that we have that TV
Oh,
framing.
because it shoots up.
Yeah, just so, because we don't want, so we just need to take into consideration the TV framing as we mount that for reals.
Ooh,
So,
you're
we
going to
go.
have to work with
Yep, that
that,
works.
because
There we go.
Yeah, it works
Yeah.
there.
So it's the Zoom, so, definitely work with our television production staff and everything, but yeah, that looks really, really nice.
Great.
And thank you very much for the Zoom.
Yes, that was, very responsive. So with that, this was something we were going to bring up under other business, but, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and take up the matter regarding approving the artwork to name the city.
I motion to suspend the rules.
Second?
Move to, and seconded to suspend the rules to take up the matter. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. And Council President Starr, motion to approve
The
the
design.
procurement of this design.
So I move the Keizer City Council approve the procurement to secure production and installation of the City of Keizer sign to be placed in the city council chambers.
Second? Second.
Comment or edit?
Yeah, just wanted to make sure that it was clear on public record how much we're talking about for this sign before we pass it. And I figured that could come up in discussion.
All right,
So,
discussion. Cost?
Yeah. It's
2480, I think it is.
Yeah, it's 20,
Is that right, Adam?
Yes, 2480, 2500 rounded up, but it'll come out of the administrative services fund. So,
Okay. So it's a general fund expenditure, administrative services, and this is something that we do have in the budget to be able to do this year. And yeah, 15 years is, we didn't rush it.
It's reasonable.
Yes, it definitely is. Glad to have this one done. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, get her done. All right, thank you very much. Anybody else here for a committee report? Okay, we will now move on to public comment. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have one public hearing scheduled this evening. That's the exemption of informal solicitation requirements relating to the new Wrights Well Pump Installation Project and authorizing city manager to sign contract with Cascade Waterworks LLC. If you're here for that, stand by. And I do have Chief Hector Blanco from Keizer Fire District here to visit with us this evening. Welcome, Chief.
Hi, thank you. Thanks again for having me. I've got a couple of things. First of all, I just would appreciate being allowed to speak. The goal of our fire chief is to continue to build our relationship with the city leadership. So I'm here to provide some insight as far as the fire district is concerned, give you some numbers, a little bit of data, and tell you what we're doing. If that's okay, I will proceed.
Please.
Okay. So we're working on a couple of different items, and I brought my notes, and my fonts are like 14 now, so excuse me when I have to look down. So currently, the fire district is operating one engine company and 3 medic units. And we're running we're running 591 calls in the month of April. So that's quite a bit of calls. To date, we are up about 16%. We were at 2,495 currently this year. So that's quite a bit of calls. And because of this, we're taking some different routes and doing a couple of things a little bit different as far as trying to increase and catch these calls. A lot of them are coming in at the same time, so we'll get multiple calls. Due to voter approval levy, we're going to increase our staffing in July. So we're going to be able to put another engine in service, which also reduces the amount of time that Salem comes into our jurisdiction as well as Marion County. So not that we don't want them here, but they definitely can help us and then reduce some of their time on the road. Every time we're on the road, it's hazardous. That's a huge piece of equipment coming at lights, and I think most of us have driven the city of Keizer between here and Salem. There's lots of traffic and lots of people not doing what they need to do when they're approached by emergency vehicles. So, and I think that's one of the items that was brought about by your other committee members as far as where these accidents are happening. So like everything, it's increasing about 20%, so that's where we're at. We're also working at doing some community risk reduction. And basically what that is we are trying to get to items before they become an issue. I'll give you an example. Your dryer at home. If you don't clean the lint box and clean that out and make sure it's clear, sooner or later that may catch on fire. So we're going to be doing campaigns in neighborhoods. We've spoken to all 5 of our neighborhood associations. They're all on board. And we're going to be doing some campaigns, not only for the dryers, but for smoke detectors, CO2 detectors, and then just doing safety inspections in people's homes, just to make sure that if there are individuals who can no longer function in a certain manner, having difficulties with falls from point A to point B, we're going to try to address those issues. At the same time, we're looking for resources to assist us with those type of items. So we've reached out to some of the current community places like the women of Keizer. I'm trying to look at my list here. We're reaching out to the Eagles, the Elks, Rotary Club, any kind of group or function that is currently happening in Keizer. We're reaching out to them to join part of our community risk reduction to help us deploy resources when we find those. We're also looking at behavioral health crisis, not only to kind of offset what's happening with our patrol in the police department, which we've spoken to the Chief Copeland, we've spoken to City Manager as far as what their ideas are, and they've provided us lists. I met with Patrol this morning, and I meet again with them on Thursday, because those are really the people who got their feet on the ground, who are seeing not necessarily the behavioral issues, but other issues and concerns that they may have. And we have them as well. We have too many cars in the front of your yard, or access that's difficult for us to get either hose lines in there or gurneys in there. Those are some of the things we're going to be discussing and reaching out to get assistance with. And that's why we're trying to get resources. We know that there are Men of Keizer and other, Muscle Bound and some other people who are out there that can help us. So we're constantly looking for resources. And I have a list of people that I yet to have to contact and have a discussion with them, but we're hoping that they join us in this endeavor to actually do some really community risk reduction right down to the grain of it and correct some of these issues that we're seeing. So I want to personally thank Mr. Brown, who allowed me to meet with him and kind of give him the insight of what was going on. And I had the opportunity of meeting your attorney as well while we were there. I've met with Chief Copeland. And hopefully we're going to be able to move forward with this and continue to build our relationship. My goal will be to try to come to City Council at least once a month, if not every other month, and provide numbers just so you have an idea of how many calls we're having. So with that, we had 6 fires in April, 447 EMS calls, 46 public service, I thought that was my phone, my radio, and 92 either false alarms, CO alarms that we responded to. So the guys are quite busy, they're getting busier, so hopefully in April we can offset some of those runs by improving and increasing our staffing. So I'm always open for questions, and I'll come more often if you have questions and try to find you answers. And if I can't get to you right away, I'll be happy to send it to the city manager, who can filter it down to whoever needs it, or attend another meeting. So I'm kind of rushing it because I think I'm on a time limit, right? So
You're
no, I'm
good.
not? Okay. So,
You're good.
all right. Do you have any questions at this time?
All right. Yeah, it looks like Councilor Husband, and thank you. I am very excited for really building the communications and relationship between the city of Keizer and our partners at Keizer Fire District. Thank you so much. I think it's going to really help us better serve our community.
Oh, you're very welcome. And like I said, no questions.
I've got Councilor Husband as a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, thank you so much for taking the time to come and let us know what's going on your end. I do want you to continue on the thread that you were going down as far as some of the statistics around the calls. I'd love to hear a little bit more from your perspective what some of these trends are that you're seeing with this jump in volume of calls. And you've obviously touched on some of the emergency initiatives that KFD is going to work through in the coming months, but at the same time, is there anything related to these call trends that you're noticing that spurred some action?
I think, I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're in good shape. You're in good shape.
I think a lot of it is, Keizer is aging, not only, physically, but the city itself. And so that's going to increase calls in itself. And then you're increasing how many people are moving into the community, which is always good. You probably looked around and you see multiple complexes. apartment complexes, a few here, a few there, a few stuck in crevices and crannies. Anywhere you can see, they're putting these complexes. And sooner or later, those are going to drive up our numbers. So that's part of it that drives our numbers up, which in a way is good, and in a way it is, part of the monster that we create. Is by having more people, we generally have to have more calls that go in. I think that's the biggest trend as far as why we're getting calls right now, and we're continuing to increase. Some of these complexes, people haven't even moved into yet. So you're talking, a couple of hundred people moving into these complexes. And that's, encompassing what we already have in residential areas. So I think that's one of the reasons our medical ones are going up. But I think ultimately, we're aging. We appreciate the proclamation for the aging of Keizer, but that also brings along some of these issues and concerns.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And this is something that Marion County and Salem Housing Authorities have also brought to our attention, the needs for people for housing and services for senior living in particular. So they are also noting that same trend. And they call us the silver tsunami. It's a reality. We boomers, we pretty much break every single social system there is just by the sheer size of our generation. So paying attention to that, I think, is really important. So thank you for the partnership to help take care of our seniors.
And I think that's another reason that our community risk reduction is going to help, because we're identifying some of these areas before they happen and then trying to get resources there to assist them. With that said, we are currently sharing a grant with Marion County and another agency for defensible space around your house. So if you have questions or concerns about any kind of items or possibly fire hazards around your house, I have a number. Can I just say the number?
Please do.
It is 503-588-6526. And at Marion County, our sister fire department across the freeway is what we generally say, is managing that grant between the three agencies. So, but they'd be happy to answer any questions and even come out and do a site inspection. Anne Marie, our prevention officer, is currently gathering data as far as hazardous areas that she can identify, and then that'll be passed on to them as well so they can coordinate that information. And then we do a car seat clinic. The next one is May 14th. From 3 to 6 p.m. And this is by appointment. So the number they can call is 971-707-0472. And we install car seats. It's like a week-long class for the individuals who become technicians for those. So it's not something simple. It's not like, we didn't have seatbelts when I was a kid. So, but it is a specialty, and we want to make sure that those kids are protected and that those seats are in place. So. I think that's all I had on my notes. We are working on a non-response volunteer right now. We're trying to create one. We've never really had one. We've had teams that come in and help us after a fire. We currently have 15 volunteers, and we're trying to get that number to 12 active volunteers, mostly because our fire station can only house so many people, approximately 10 to 13. And with the numbers that I gave you earlier, an engine has 3, each ambulance has 2. We quickly got to 10, plus the battalion chief who's on duty now 24 hours. We're really jammed up in the room. So we're going to be looking for non-response volunteers that can help us with some of the activities, Iris Fest, the breakfasts, just to name a few, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll be sure to bring applications next time I come and see if I can corral some of you leadership of Keizer and see if you can help us with some of these items that are coming up in the near future. And once again, I'll leave with any other questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, looking forward to continue to build the relationship, and also want to give a big shout out to one of your members on your board, Betty Hart, who is a regular on my program Coffee with Kathy, and sharing what's going on in the Keizer Fire District, getting it out there on social media each month. So I really appreciate the outreach.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else signed up for public comment tonight. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? All right, then we will go to our public hearing. Click that on my computer. There we go. like to open a public hearing on resolution exemption of informal solicitation requirements relating to the new Wrights Well Pump Installation Project and authorizing city manager to sign contract with Cascade Water Works LLC. City manager. Does this go to Mr. Lawyer? Okay, Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The city entered into a contract with Cascade Water Works LLC to install a new pump in the recently completed well at the Wright site. During the initial process to install the pump, it was discovered there was additional work needed to get the pump into the well and connected to the pitless adapter, more than was originally anticipated or known. The cost to perform the additional work is in excess for the percentage allowed to be added to contracts by state statute for public projects without going back to the governing body for approval. The contract with Cascade Water Works to provide and install a new pump at the Wright site for the amount of $34,511.62 was authorized on January 3rd, 2024. As I mentioned, it was discovered by the contractor when they attempted to install the new pump that additional work would be necessary to get it installed. The additional work primarily relates to connecting the pump to the pitless adapter in the well. Cascade Water Works discovered the pitless adapter had powder coating in the area where the pump connects to it that prohibits the pump from connecting. The powder coating needs to be removed in order for the new pump to connect. This work is outside the original scope of work included in the original bid. The pitless adapter was provided by the city for the well drilling contractor to install in the well. The city had the pitless adapter powder coated prior to providing it to the well contractor. Staff requested a quote from Cascade Water Works to perform the work necessary to modify the pitless adapter to allow the new pump to be installed. The quote received in the amount of $28,858.50 exceeds the percentage of the original contract amount allowed to be added to a public contract. An exemption process is necessary to accept the quote for the necessary additional work to be added to the original contract. The current situation is the well is not usable without a pump installed. The adapter is welded to the column about 3 feet below the surface. Purchasing a new adapter would mean removing the old one off the column and re-welding the new one back to the column. There's not a more cost-effective or practical option than to have Cascade do this work. Cascade is a logical contractor. To perform the additional work needed to install the pump, they have supplied and already contracted to install. And something I did not add in here, the pump is down in the well currently. It's just not connected. There is no strategic impact associated with this proposal. Funds for this additional cost, the $28,858.50, while not anticipated, are available in the adopted fiscal year 23-24 Water Facility Fund budget. Approval of this exemption and amended contract will allow the pump installation to be completed and the well to be usable. City Council authorization is needed for this action. Alternatives are to adopt the attached resolution, direct staff to terminate the current agreement and conduct an informal solicitation process for the project, or take no action and the project will be left unfinished and the well unusable. Staff recommends opening the public hearing, taking testimony. If there are no further questions, close the public hearing and adopt the attached resolution. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Lindsay.
May I add one or two pieces of this? Part of the reason for this jump in price as well, just so you know, is because the change order became more than 25%, triggering a new need for a new contract. The amount happened to be over the amount that then required prevailing wage to be paid. So then part of this price is them agreeing to go back and pay prevailing wage for the work that's already been done as well. So that's part of the reason why there's an additional amount onto this, is because it became a prevailing wage amount. So I thought the council should know that as well.
So just to be clear, for people who are watching, prevailing wage requirements are operated or overseen by the Bureau of Labor and Industries, BOLI?
As well as out-of-state statute.
Okay, and state statute. Thank you.
And they apply, prevailing wages apply for when the contract or work exceeds $50,000.
Okay.
One other thing I wanted to add that I've realized actually late this afternoon that I wish I would have put in the staff report. The actual quote from Cascade Waterworks LLC is a maximum of $28,000. It's not a fixed amount. Their quote says, "Work related to this scope of work will be performed and billed on a time and material basis." So it is, I hope, the bottom line end result will be less than that. And if things go extremely well, which we can hope, but, can't count on, they have about $10,000 worth of work they can do and bill us before they hit the $50,000 mark. So there is potential, and I need to emphasize that this entire project could come in considerably less than the stated numbers.
So
The numbers
Paul-
I stated are worst case.
So is this would this be a not to exceed?
Yes, the $28,858.50 is a not to exceed number.
Thank you.
But they'll bill us on time and materials. This contractor's worked with us for a lot of years and they've done really, really well for us. They wanted to just give us a time and materials quote, but because of the contractual issues, we needed a maximum number, so that's what we got.
Okay, so we have an NTE in there.
Right.
Okay, any additional questions? Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Lawyer, you said, or maybe it was Mr. Lindsay, said that it triggered an amount that caused them to have to go back and apply prevailing wage. So with the information that Mr. Lawyer just shared, that it's a not to exceed and it's a billable hour, where are we at in triggering that prevailing wage?
If they get over 50,000, it will trigger prevailing wage.
So how much do they have?
Well, I believe it was originally a $34,000 contract, but they actually did one change order and it got to 39. So I think they're really only at about less than 11,000 before
Okay.
that would trigger.
It's actually $10,218.22 to get to $50,000.
22 cents or 23 cents?
22. So that's to get to $50,000. Anything over $50,000 requires prevailing wage. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anything further from council? I do not have anybody signed up for this, public hearing. Oh, did you have something? I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, tell us a story. It was powder coated to protect it so it would last longer. And somehow the powder coating exceeded the usable limit. There's a story here, I'm sure.
The powder coating was applied to protect the pitless adapter from corrosion so it doesn't rot, because it's in the ground, okay? When that was applied, there's an area of the adapter where the pump, not the pump itself, but the pipe that goes from the pump into the water system, if you will, connects to this pitless adapter. There was powder coating in that part that was put on maybe a little heavier than necessary or heavier than needed. That's where the problem lies. It's actually where the pipe connects to the pitless adapter. And so in order to get that powder coating removed, they have to get down there, literally 3 feet down in the ground, and grind that off manually, and then connect the pump. The pump line, I should say, not the pump itself.
You good?
So, when we said to powder coat this, did we say, hey, this has got to connect? Did somebody understand that this can't be too thick or it won't work?
Yes, we did understand that. Everybody understood that. City staff worked with the powder coater to have it, powder coating company to have it done. And the best that we can determine, and nobody really knows the answer to this or why it won't work right now, other than the only answer I have is maybe the powder coating was put on a millimeter too thick. I mean, literally, it's that fine of a line. Maybe 2 millimeters, but.
Okay. Did you have some? Okay. I do not have anybody signed up for this public hearing, so I invite anybody who's here who would like to speak on this issue to raise their hand and come forward at this time. Don't all rush at once. All right, I do not see anybody who would like to testify on this public hearing. Is there anything else council needs before I close the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr?
I move the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R2024, exemption of informal solicitation requirements relating to the new Wrights Well Pump Installation Project, and authorizing the city manager to sign the contract with Cascade Waterworks LLC.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2024, exemption of informal solicitation requirements relating to the new Wrights Well Pump Installation Project, and authorizing the city manager to sign contract with Cascade Waterworks LLC. Discussion. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Lawyer, how confident are we that this is the problem before we move forward? Because what I'm worried about is we authorize this contract, you go down and you, whatever they do to try to make it work, and it doesn't work because it wasn't the powder coating. What's our confidence level that this is the solution to the problem?
My confidence level is 100%. I have listened to my staff, they have talked to the contractor, we've worked with these guys for a long, long time. They have one of their very best, well, the original person that started the company actually retired, moved to Washington. He's back with them again. He was down on the job. He said this will fix it. I trust him. There's no doubt in my mind that what they propose and what they said they need to do to make it work, we'll fix it.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm ecstatic that you're 100% confident this is the solution to the problem. I am not an expert, but my question is, what if it's not the solution? What's our plan B? What's our plan C?
At this point, we don't have a plan B because I'm that confident this will fix it. If it doesn't, my recommendation would be to cut the pitless adapter off and start again.
And who pays for that?
The city, it'd be on the city. It's not Cascade's fault. Remember, we provided the pitless adapter. We had the well driller attach it to the column, which is pretty common practice, okay? Pump companies don't typically mount or install the pitless adapter. That's done by the well driller, okay? We took the original pitless adapter off the old well, had it rehabilitated, clean, powder, not pressure washed, sandblasted, and then powder coated so it's like new because it was not something that needed to be replaced. The well driller put it on, Cascade came to put the pump in, discovered the problem. If they can't get the pump connected, then as I said, my recommendation is cut the pitless adapter off and start over again.
Thank you.
Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What does the new one cost?
A new pitless adapter,
Yes, sir.
a few $1,000s. It's been a while since we've had to price one individually. To cut it off and weld it back, cut it off, replace it and weld the new one on, we're probably talking $10,000, $12,000.
Follow up?
Isn't that cheaper than what we're talking about doing?
No, because you still gotta have the pump installed. That's just the pitless adapter piece, which is a whole different portion of the well and operation than the pump itself.
So they're talking about pulling the pump out and reinstalling the pump?
They're gonna pull the pump out, get in there and with a grinder, literally by hand, and remove some of that powder coating in the area where the problem is, and then reinstall the pump. The pump's about 200 feet down right now, just hanging out.
And this is a 600 gallon per minute pump?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. No objection. Motion passes unanimously. All right, that takes care of public hearings this evening. Let's go on to administrative action. Item 8A, which is the Event Center Fee Waiver Request, Latino Business Alliance for the 2024 Expo Negocio. We got an email today that, I don't have to find that email. The person who's going to come and speak to that tonight is ill. and not able to attend, so we can either go ahead with this one, since this is a very familiar event, or we can, wait for a couple of weeks. Here it is. Click, come on. Good computer. All right, so David, oh gosh, name just escaped my head. Reinhold, thank you. He's the president of LBA who planned to attend tonight, had a family emergency. So, with council, would like to proceed, or would you like to put this off for a couple of weeks?
I move we go for it.
Let's go for it. All right, this goes to Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, I am pleased to announce that the Latino Business Alliance is going to be bringing the 2024 Expo Negocio back to the event center here. They have requested a waiver of fees. The total use fee is $3,590.63. It does require a $1,500 refundable deposit. Consistent with our policy, I've recommended that we waive the use fee, but continue to charge the refundable deposit. This is a recurring event that we've had here, and we have waived the fees in the past. With that, I'd like to leave all the details to when they can actually come and talk to it. So if you have any other questions, I'd be free to address those.
All right, thank you very much. And this is our way of essentially being a sponsor for the Expo Negocios.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on the fee waiver request? All right, Council President Starr.
I move that Keizer City Council approve a waiver of the event center use fee of $3,590.63 for the Latino Business Alliance 2024 Expo Negocio on November 14th, 2024, but charge the $1,500 refundable deposit.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council approve a waiver of the event center use fee for $3,590.63 for the Latino Business Alliance 2024 Expo Negocio on November 14, 2024, but charge the $1,500 refundable deposit. Discussion. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I attended this function last year, it's truly an amazing thing and bring a lot of people into Keizer. I think it's something we should 100% approve.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Council President Starr.
I would like to invite representatives of the LBA to still come and present on the event, not necessarily to answer any questions about this, but I just think it would be, it's an important event for them to share on this platform with our community.
Agreed. So the event, the invitation to come and let us know more about it, especially as the event gets closer, will be sent to David Reinhold and the LBA leadership team. And some of us will be at Latino Business Alliance on Thursday, so we can extend that invitation as well. And for folks who are watching, Keizer City Council members attend the Latino Business Alliance Cafe Pan Dulce each month because we want to continue to build a relationship with our Latino businesses and the Latino Business Alliance. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, the motion passes unanimously. Let's go to item 8B, which is amphitheater fee waiver request, Keizer Creek Watershed Council, soggy day at the park. And Mr. Lawyer is here. So we'll go to Mr. Wood, and then we'll go to Mr. Matt Lawyer.
Madam Mayor, City Council, again, I'm pleased to announce that the Keizer Creek Watershed Council is bringing Soggy Day in the Park back to Keizer Rapids Park on May 25th, 2024. They have requested a fee waiver. Use fees for the amphitheater for their time is $305. Consistent with our event center policy, I am recommending that we do charge a $170 refundable deposit. However, you feel free to waive that as well if you feel so inclined. So the request is a waiver of the use fee of $305, and if you feel inclined, a waiver of the $170 refundable deposit.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions on the staff report? Let's go to Mr. Lawyer.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff, and Matt Lawyer with the Keizer Creek Watershed Council, and we're excited to bring back Soggy Day Memorial Day weekend. Last year, huge hit, but more than 300 people attend. It's going to be a little bit modified this year. Unfortunately, we've been having a hard time finding a boat driver. Mr. Keizer is going to be out of state. And so we're going to be really focusing more on some hands-on experiences. I think whoever is going to be doing the backhoe this year, if we're able to get that, I'm going to have to probably buy them pizza for a week and maybe a back brace because it's going to be a lot of fun. But we got the bouncy house coming again this year. We're going to have Sancho's Tacos coming out. We've looked at a couple different sort of cold treat folks that might be able to come out. We're still trying to narrow that one down, but Memorial Day weekend, oddly enough, is going to be very busy for a lot of our typical cold treat vendors. And if it's as warm as it was last year, I expect we're going to really hope that we can get one out there. So it's exciting, actually. As I got here tonight, West Keizer Neighborhood Association said, hey, we'd love to come and put up a tent. And I said, great, let's do it. And so with that, I actually want to invite all the neighborhood associations. There's no cost. Please come out, put an informational tent out because you are going to have an organic reach of people. And so it's a really good opportunity for those folks that might be in your neighborhood association that have never been able to participate to learn a little bit about it and maybe engage. So that's super cool, and we look forward to having those out there. And we do allow businesses to come out if they wish to bring a tent, and we ask for just a small donation if they want to put it towards the actual cost of the event. We don't allow anything to be sold on site. Everything's free or informational. It was funny, as I was reading the staff report, I saw the $170, and we're happy to do that. The check will be here probably sometime 3 to 6 weeks after the event, so I apologize for that. It just takes a really long time as a nonprofit to get those checks written, but we are very happy to do that if that is a requirement. Not trying to make a joke out of it, this is just the world we live in these days. I do understand the policy and respect the work the council's done on that, but yeah, we can definitely work on it. I've already texted Bob, said, let's figure out how we can make this work if we're gonna need to. Thank the city of Keizer, this is just a great event. And people walk their dogs, going out with kids. I mean, every single year we have people like, what is this? Well, it's just a free thing, come hang out. And they're really apprehensive about something like we're gonna sell them a timeshare, which we don't. It ends up being a great thing. And so we're looking forward to it. Last year, tacos were done in 41 minutes. They were completely out of tacos. And so Santiago is actually coming from out of state purposely for this trip because he believes so much in what we're doing here. And I think he said he's going to bump the numbers up a little bit to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to sample some good Sancho's tacos. Yeah, it's exciting. Glad to do it again this year on Memorial Day. We'll see if we can get the same number of folks out there, and look forward to seeing all the council and staff and anybody that wants to come out there and enjoy the day. Take any questions if you've got them.
All right, thank you very much. And for folks who are wondering what the Keizer Creek Watershed Council is, you want to give them the elevator speech?
Yeah, so the Keizer Creek Watershed Council, we're the little watershed council that tries. So the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board actually recognizes all the watershed councils, and we're this one that just exists purely out of will. We get no recognition officially from OWEB in terms of any funding. They do say, Keizer Creek Watershed Council with an asterisk, sort of, but it's a tri-jurisdictional watershed. We have City of Salem, Marion County, and Keizer Creek Watershed, Keizer. They're all part of the watershed, and we basically just do projects. And the idea behind the projects is really to maintain clean and healthy streams, maintain clean and healthy banks, and worry about water stabilization and bank stabilization. But the big thing that we do is education and outreach and getting people involved. And so every single project we do kind of sucks. I mean, none of them are really very sexy, if I'm being totally honest with you. We're doing trash cleanup, we're doing stuff that is just, it's dirty. But the result of it is very beautiful. And in fact, this last weekend, we just went and looked at the pollinator garden we did last fall. And so it's looking great, it's looking healthy. And so the idea is really just to maintain what we have, take care of what we have in terms of our watershed, make sure we're being a good partner to our 3 jurisdictions, although for the most part, Keizer is the only one that engages us, which is fine. And, we're just, I'm going to tangent for a second. We got a guy, Ray, that just came on board. This guy's amazing. It was Ray or Roy, Bob? Anyways, this guy, we always know Bob's paying attention. This guy is like the genius with planting. Like he ran a thing over on Tillamook for a long time, number of years. I mean, they've done 20,000 trees or something like that. It's just insane. He actually brought to our last meeting, I think 60 or 80 individual propagated plants that he wants to donate to the Watershed Council that we can just kind of plant wherever, which is really exciting. But with Jeff's leadership now, I'm very excited. We're actually looking at potentially helping some residences again, which is sort of unheard of. We are not going to come in and landscape your garden. We're not gardeners, but we will, if there's bank stabilization issues, there's ways we can work to help kind of mitigate that through proper planting of, different vegetation that really shores up the bank, particularly along the actual creek itself. So it's a very long question to a very simple, very long answer to a very simple question, but we just do things, right? We have a lot of fun doing it.
And mud's fun.
It can be, yeah, and stinky.
Yes. Thank you for that. I just want to get it out there for people who want to know more about the Claggett Creek Watershed Council. And you have a Facebook page, is there a website also?
No, the website was still operating on an AOL platform. I'm kidding, it's not that old. But no, we took it down because it was just one of those things. So we do have the Claggett Creek Watershed Council page. So I encourage people to go take a look at that. I think we're on MySpace as well. We're not, we're just on Facebook, no Instagram or.
We're all about updating to 2024. So we've been doing a lot of that recently.
Right.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Councilor Kohler had a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Lawyer, thank you for coming. My understanding is that the sponsorship of the Soggy Day in the Park has been one of those difficult things in the past, but I understand that this year, Chair Anderson helped get that all taken care of early.
I was going to bring that up, and then he told me we had to apply for the funds, and I went, oh. So Marion Soil and Water, who has historically been a fairly good partner for Claggett Creek Watershed Council, said they would do it with a proviso that we actually have to go and apply for the funds and do all the things. I should have known better. There's no such thing as a free lunch when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we have to go through that whole process. But my expectation and hope is that we would be able to do that. Now, that being said, if there is a business organization or individual that wants to step forward, this is free to the public, but it's not free to put on. So we historically spend about $2,500. A to Z Rental does cut us a significant break on the bounce house. And we do help pay for a little bit of the food, just kind of see some of the overhead costs. So if there are individuals or businesses that want to participate, let Bob Bush know or Jeff Anderson. Don't call me. I'm kidding. I'll take the call. But yeah, we're happy to bring anybody on.
Especially if donations are coming. But also really appreciate just getting the community involved with Claggett Creek Watershed Council and the work of tremendous volunteers, multi-generational. It's just really cool to see us taking care of our watersheds. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood, what have we done in the past years for the refundable deposit?
I believe we have not charged for the refundable deposit in the past.
And so what was the thought process behind doing it this year if we've not done it in the past? Just
Consistency with our.
consistency?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
if you want to make a motion that is amended to not have that, just simply leave out the words, but charge the $170 returnable deposit.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Anything further for Mr. Lawyer? Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Council President Starr?
I move the Keizer City Council waive the Keizer Rotary Amphitheater use fees of $305 for the Claggett Creek Watershed Council Soggy Day in the Park community event on May 25th, 2024.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council waive the Keizer Rotary Amphitheater use fees of $305 for the Claggett Creek Watershed Council's Soggy Day at the Park community event on May 25th, 2024. Discussion? Put it on your calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. Let's go to item 8C, which is an ordinance relating to the recognition of neighborhood associations, repeal of ordinance number 93-257. This is a big leap forward. Mr. Lindsay.
Madam Mayor, and council. This came to you back August 2023, then again here, we had another work session in March. And there was a lot, each time, all of the neighborhood associations that you currently recognize showed up. They all had input. And I think at the end, well, I do know at the end of the last work session, the quote was something about not letting perfection get in the way of progress. And so what we did was we took everything that you guys came to in terms of decision-making and put it into an ordinance, knowing that maybe the future holds review of this maybe on an annual or every other year basis, but that these were the decision points that we got to throughout those work sessions. And so that's what we're here to allow you to either take some out, put some in, or go with this one. But staff is definitely recommending that you pass it as is, and that we can revisit it in the future time that you guys pick.
All right, thank you very much. Questions on the staff report? Councilor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I'm getting tired. Under the bylaws section, Mr. Lindsay, for number 2, participation or membership or participation shall not be limited based on any protected class under Oregon or federal law. So with this, when Mr. Deardoff from Southeast Keizer, and he asked that he has a big Latino group and he asked for a translator, and I asked if that would be considered what's the word I'm looking for?
Accommodation?
Yeah.
That isn't an accommodation in terms of like a disability, but it could be a barrier to participation. And that could be a discussion for the council about whether or not my understanding of our conversation was the amount of monies that people have for each association. There could be those would easily be reimbursable under those. Now, whether or not affirmatively the city can provide for any group an interpreter is even though it is an acknowledged barrier,
Right.
doesn't
I'm
rise to a accommodation.
I get what you're saying. I'm looking at Carrie because then maybe that's something she can talk about at diversity committee, and we get a volunteer to help with that.
Well, and there could be really creative ways of creating maybe grants or creating, you know what I mean? Sort of
Right.
workable ways in which we could approach that. Because I know that's near and dear to your heart, and it would be really helpful for what amounts to about, 22% of the population speak Spanish first, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my other question under the bylaws, it says that, I think maybe 8 or 9, that if we lose a secretary or president or vice president, they have to fill the vacancy the next month. I thought that we were gonna be a little bit more lenient on that.
Those were the original officers that they shall have. And so originally we said the next meeting, and we relaxed it to this language.
Oh, so which is the next meeting?
Does it say that?
Uh-huh.
First meeting following the vacancy to meet.
Oh, okay.
Didn't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
page 55 of the packet, item 7, line 16.
Thank you on that.
Oh, no, I mean, the intention was to do as you guys requested.
Okay.
So, is the wish or desire, because if we're gonna do a as amended motion, I'm looking for consensus.
So-
The language would be at the,
Right now, the language is the very next meeting.
yeah, the first meeting following the vacancy. And you wanted within,
3 meetings is what I thought. I mean, the very next meeting, again, it's late, but I thought when we were talking to them, that Tish, we were saying, hey, sometimes it's hard to find somebody within 30 days to find somebody to fill it. You're not even asking them to fill that president, vice president, or secretary spot.
So if I could follow up a little bit on that, the conversation was also about the next meeting may not happen within a month. Sometimes it's over 2 or 3 months, especially when they have gaps. during the summer or the holidays. So the request that I heard from the neighbors associations was just by the next meeting, because the officers are what validate them to be able to operate as an association. So, when, Mr. Gerloff was talking about their experience, they took a pause, got those recruited and got those filled. So, to make sure that they were, in compliance with their bylaws by having those 3 positions filled.
Well, and I could also say that I think the trepidation on the part of some of the association members was that if they had currently more than the needed 3 officers, that those positions, say they, in their bylaws said they had 7 positions, we didn't want to be punitive about that. We
No,
just wanted to
just the 3.
recognize the
Yeah, and
bottom
my
3.
thoughts is that maybe they have 10 people, and maybe they have people that don't want to be 3 officers, and they lose the momentum.
But if they have 3 on their board, or if they have 10 on their board, they're good. But somebody's got to be the officer, somebody has to be the president, vice president, and, secretary, treasurer, whatever they call it, secretary, yes, on their board. That's how I understand it. So we have to have 3 willing to serve in those leadership
I
positions.
thought we were just going to be more lenient.
Would there be consistency or a consensus on saying within 2 meetings? Because I know too, some of them don't have to have meetings with, every month. Would that, if, I'm just looking for a show of heads, if we were to say as amended, just trying to get over the finish line.
Council President Starr has a comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if we can just go to page 4 of the new ordinance in section 7. And I can't use the excuse that it's after 9, so I better get it together here. It says, the way that I read this, and this is like the 3rd time that I've read it this way. So you have your board, and then this statement that's about half on line 16, that first new sentence says the board of directors shall fill any position vacancies at the first meeting following the vacancy to meet the required 3 board positions. That, to your point, Madam Mayor, does not mean it. That is a very vague statement. Where it says shall fill any position vacancies. I think I know what we were trying to get to. I just am not sure that this is the right verbiage that got us to the intent of what we were trying to get to. Because
And my apologies for that.
any position
I see
vacancy,
where you're going.
right?
So should
So
I
if they
say
have
any-
3 officers and 5 board members, and a board member, one of those 5 board members resigns, the way I read it, and I've read this multiple times, you're gonna have to fill that 5th board position the very next meeting, because it says any vacancy.
So let's how about shall fill any officer position vacancies?
That I am better with.
Okay,
And I
then
would still.
what about the timeliness?
I would still like us to at least, I think the very next meeting is rough, because if you have, let's say it's February, your meeting, and I'm making this up, you meet in the middle of the month, somebody for an unexpected reason needs to resign at the beginning of March, right? You haven't had your meeting yet. The way this reads, they would have to fill that vacancy at the March meeting, and that only gives them 2 weeks, the way that this reads. So I think there's some work we can do to fix the verbiage.
Within 2 subsequent meetings?
Yeah, because,
I'm gonna go to Councilor Reed and then back to Councilor Cross.
I think the flexibility is, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the flexibility is already built into that, because in the scenario that Council President Starr puts forth, if they only had 2 weeks, they would probably cancel that meeting. The meetings get canceled, and so, the next meeting would be, whenever they needed it to be. And so, to me, that flexibility is built in just based on when the neighborhood associations decide to have their meetings. Because if we make it rigid, and say, within the next 2 months or whatever, that is going, at cross purposes to the intent of this.
if I may, real quick, I'll go to Counselor Cross. From what I recall of the conversation, it was to make sure that the 3 required positions are filled in a timely manner. I understand both those scenarios. The meeting in between, let's say you get that in Council President Starr's scenario, you get that resignation, that next meeting is gonna be an organizational one, where you're gonna do some recruiting. So I think that giving them that one more time to actually fill it might be necessary to recruit, especially if it happened in between meetings. So I'll go to Councilor Cross and I'll come back to see if we can get this, sorted.
I just want to be on record to make sure that we are being helpful and not a hindrance to these neighborhood associations, that we are lifting them up and not pushing them down.
Right, that's what we've been working on with this update from 1993. So I'm looking forward to that getting concluded. So do I hear from folks that we would like to make this, to clean up the language on lines 16 and 17 and to allow for 2 meetings? I'll go to Counselor Kohler and then Counselor Hussman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that the 2 meetings is reasonable because if somebody resigned 2 weeks prior to the meeting, they probably already have program and everything else lined up there and probably haven't set time sufficient to do recruiting and such for that particular meeting, and would give them ample time to complete that requirement.
Go to Hussman, and then we have 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 of our city, our neighbor associations here. I'm gonna ask for, what do you think?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I echo Councilor Reed in that I don't believe that the 2 meeting threshold serves the purpose that we want to. I think that filling the vacancies at the officer vacancies, granted, at the next available meeting is the best overall course of action. And I do worry that there is an optics element in neighborhood association boards holding meetings without the full complement of officers available, even knowing that they are going to go out and recruit one to maintain legitimacy and recognition. That strikes a chord against transparency if a neighborhood association is going to still pursue a meeting, but then not have a full complement of officers presiding. I think that is not something that any individuals looking to get involved with neighborhood association meetings would appreciate seeing.
Okay, thank you. So just to, because the 3 neighborhood associations who have members here, you don't have this necessarily in front of you. The line reads as follows. The Board of Directors shall fill any position vacancies at the first meeting following the vacancy to meet the required 3 board positions, period. For additional vacancies, the bylaws must address what is considered timely in filling additional board positions above the minimum 3 officers. So what I'm hearing is there's issue with the word in line 16 of any, because that implies something above and beyond the required 3 board positions, which is the subject of this sentence. So make it, rewrite that, make it clear, the Board of Directors shall fill the required 3 board positions at the either first or second, this is what we're discussing, meeting following the vacancy, period. Flipping that sentence would clarify that's what we're talking about.
Why don't you just say by the 3rd meeting?
First, second, now we're pushing out to the 3rd.
Why don't you just say by the 3rd meeting? So that gives them up to 3 meetings to fill the vacancy. It doesn't say it has to be done at the first meeting, doesn't say it has to be done at the second meeting, but it's by the 3rd meeting. So maybe you got an awesome group and they have somebody recruited at the first meeting, go neighborhood association. But maybe it's gonna take them up to 3 meetings. So if you say by the 3rd meeting, there you go.
Looking at our neighborhood associations, I see that you're getting it up on your phone. On the the rewrite, to clarify, we're talking about your 3 officer positions. We're not talking about the rest of them, but just making sure to maintain that complement of the 3 officers. Timeliness is something we spent a great deal of time talking about at the work session, how quickly that could be done. Next meeting, within 2 meetings, or before the 3rd, or by,
By the third meeting.
as Council President Starr suggests, by the 3rd meeting. Opinions? Yeah, come on up. We want to hear from our neighbor associations. So you are Northwest.
Yeah, Northwest Keizer.
Yep.
And support. Oh. Question for.
How many meetings do we have to have as a neighborhood association in a year to be legitimate?
You have to have one annual.
One meeting, right. So if you were to put 2 or 3 meetings, potentially, you could go 3 years and not have a legal neighborhood association piece. So now, I don't think neighborhood associations only meet once a year. We typically meet more than that. My other question is, with that requirement, a meeting only happens when you have the 3 officers at the meeting, even though some of our associations have multiple board members. That means every meeting has to have all 3 officers present to be considered a meeting. Okay, so then.
Or a quorum of them.
So,
Two, at least.
so the 3 are required for the quorum. The 3, let's say we have a board of 7 and one of the officers is missing, that's not a quorum?
No, if you have a board that is bigger by your own bylaws, then your quorum is defined usually by whatever your documents say. But it's usually a majority of the amount. So if it were 7, it would be 4. But if you only truly operate with 3 to begin with, then a quorum is 2.
Right,
Yeah,
but if you operate with 7,
Yeah.
and one of the meetings you have, the chair happens to have to go to a different meeting, is that not a meeting then?
No, it's a meeting.
It's a meeting.
Okay, it is a meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
So your quorum, if you have a board of 7, your quorum's 4.
So really what we need to have is 1 meeting a year. You have to have the 3 officers as part of the meeting, and then you would meet the requirements that are required by the state statutes.
Or this ordinance.
Or this
Or this
ordinance. So really, all we need to do is make sure that that ordinance says that we have at least 1 meeting a year where the 3 officers are present.
No, I don't think that's what we're specifying. I think that you have to have 3 officers identified who are, they're named and they are registered with the city recorder. We're not saying that they all have to be at all those meetings. It's a good thing. But what we're saying here is that you have to have 3 people who are named as president, vice president, secretary, the officers, and those are on file with the city recorder. If your bylaws have a board of 7, your quorum is 4, and somebody just has to run the meeting. So however you establish that, either your chair does it, or your vice chair, or they have to be out of town, somebody is, picked to run the meeting, and you have that flexibility to do that. That's not a problem.
So I guess my question is, what's the purpose of this piece in the statute? That it's to make sure that we have 3 officers, that each one of the neighborhood associations has 3 officers.
That you have them, that you have them named.
Right, right, the
because-
named filed actual people. right.
Yes, you have to have 3 people identified who fill those positions, and those are registered for your neighborhood association with the city recorder. The reason we're writing this down is that there has been some issue around clarity for making sure that our neighborhood associations have those 3 officers identified, and making sure that we have compliance with that. So you have that bare minimum. We don't want our neighbor associations to operate at a bare minimum, and none of you, that's not your goal either. You go beyond that. But to make sure that we have the minimum required identified in this, this resolution. So that's all this is about.
You guys hear me? I just wanted to maybe put it in with a clarification that, again, we are only required to have a board meeting once a year to meet our standards for the board and to be recognized, right? Like, that is the standard that we have. And so With that said, if a neighborhood association does not have 3 members, chances are they're not having meetings, like regular open meetings. So they do need, I think the year gives them the time to create that space, to find a new board member to that, to allow them to actually pull membership in from their neighborhood, and then do what they need to do as a neighborhood association. So yes, I think that distinction needs to occur between a general meeting and a board meeting within that verbiage.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just to be recognized. That's the reason why we have to do it. Yeah.
Well, and what I could say, and I think I could echo everybody's sentiment here, which is, I believe that neighborhood associations want to do this and more. And I think everybody seems to meet almost monthly. This was a standard that was originally sort of played out just to codify what would the minimum be? Because we wouldn't want one person to come in and be like, I'm the neighborhood association, and then they just, one person votes and they have a meeting. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so I think it was to sort of give a legitimacy to a group that legitimately wants to take a piece of our city and make it great, right? So, we're encouraging people to, in their bylaws, say, I want to meet more. And in their own bylaws say, yeah, we want this many participants and all that sort of thing. This was just a way of like having kind of the floor, not the ceiling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Councilor Husband.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think we're doing our best to make it explicit that a scenario like this doesn't happen, where a neighborhood association meets with 3 board members in, we'll say, January 2025. They lose an officer, so they couldn't necessarily continue public meetings, but that neighborhood association can't just say, oh, we're not going to resolve the issue until January 2026 after the calendar year, because then from our purpose on the dais, it doesn't look like they're being particularly serious, and therefore giving us reasons not to recognize that neighborhood association with the money that we're now pooling in as a part of recognition.
100, sorry, can I
Yes,
respond?
please.
100%. But I think I don't mean to contradict. I mean to say, like, my example is more like, hey, we were recognized in March. I think March is April is when we become recognized, when we bring our summary and tell you guys all the fun things we've done. And then April, or the month after, we lose a member, right? A core member. So as a neighborhood association, I would think the smart thing to do would be to cease having general meetings and just focus on finding a member to be cohesive and have the basic needs that we need to meet in order to actually be a proper. So that will give us technically 11 months to get to that point, right? Yes, we will come back the next year and tell you, hey, we spent 11 months trying to find a person, and yes, we found them last month. And I think at that point it would be up to you to let us know if that was appropriate or enough to therefore give us funding, right?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that the neighborhood associations are working on being responsive to, fill those vacancies and keep the work going forward. Okay, and so what we're talking about is what we're going to put as the minimum requirement for filling the officer positions. In the conversation we had talked about by the next meeting, we're talking about allowing for 2 to allow a little bit more time. You're the guys doing the work and the recruiting. So advise on the 1 or 2. How does that feel? Or as Council President Starr said, by the 3rd meeting, have it done.
3 months for the core.
By the 3rd meeting.
3rd meeting, whatever that means.
Okay, by the 3rd meeting?
Okay,
Yeah, because in the summertime, some of our neighborhood
Right.
associations takes a
Exactly.
couple months, right?
exactly.
All right. So we're talking about 3 meetings or 3 months? That's different.
I think meetings.
Okay, that's why I'll make sure that we're clear. Okay. And I'm looking at, sorry.
My apologies, Madam
Yes.
Mayor. I was going to say, I then would suggest line 16 to read, the Board of Directors shall fill any officer position vacancies by the 3rd meeting following the vacancy to meet the required 3 board positions.
That one's still
Bingo.
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
I'm looking at
When
what's
you say as
what's-
amended, it will have that in it.
Okay, So copy paste that.
Remember that,
Nope, you don't.
as amended.
Counselor Cross, I'm looking to West Keizer. You good? Okay, you're good? Southeast? Okay, we're good. Counselor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add that some of these neighborhood associations have more than those 3 board meetings. So they'd have to fill all of them by the 3rd meeting?
Just the officers.
Okay.
Yeah, we're setting the floor, not the ceiling. Their board is determined by their bylaws. So we're just making sure that they have officers. Okay, anything else in perusing this document? Again, this is a giant leap from 1993 to 2024. I expect some adjustments.
Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate your input and also your work for all of our neighbor associations. Thank you. Anything else?
I would, I guess, reiterate that I think that would be a great idea for your diversity committee to tackle the notion of how we could get more interpreters involved in things, so.
Volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, anything else? Counselor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's important that we, that we make a move like this so that some of our struggling neighborhood associations aren't penalized. We're trying to make sure that we can fulfill, have every neighborhood represented and be a part of what our city is. So we're trying to make it easy and not harder. So I think this is a good move. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we're ready for a motion. Council President Starr, are you ready to make a motion?
Yes, I am, Madam Mayor. I just want to clarify with Mr. Lindsay. Do I have to, when I make the motion, is it as amended or?
Just as amended. Pardon me, just as amended, and then that change will go in, and then, of course, there will be a second reading, unless it's unanimous.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
if it's unanimous, I'll make sure it's in there and you'll see it,
And you want me to say as amended though, right?
just as amended.
Perfect, thank you. I move that Keizer City Council adopt ordinance 2024 as amended relating to the recognition of neighborhood associations and the repeal of ordinance number 93-257.
Second?
It's been, okay, you said it. It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt ordinance 2024 as amended relating to the recognition of neighborhood associations, repeal of ordinance number 93-257. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no.
No.
We're going to do second reading. Motion passes with 1 no, and that's Counselor Hessman. This will come back then in 2 weeks. All right, let's go to item D, resolution authorizing the city manager to award and enter into an agreement with Knife River Corporation Northwest for pickleball courts and parking lot. Mr. Brown? No, because Mr. Lawyer. All right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Pickleball.
This project includes the construction of 6 pickleball courts, fencing to separate the courts and around the courts, a new parking lot, and the extension of the access road at Keizer Rapids Park to the parking lot. Staff solicited bids for the construction of these courts and parking lot at Keizer Rapids. A total of 6 bids were received and opened on April 25th at 3 p.m. The bids ranged from a high of $1,150,000 to a low of $462,478.48.
Wow.
The lowest responsive bid was submitted by Knife River Corporation Northwest. The engineer's estimate for the project was $635,000 to $650,000. This amenity is identified in the park's master plan for Keizer Rapids Park. Pickleball's popularity is growing, and there are no dedicated pickleball courts. Boy, that's tough for me to say tonight. In Keizer Parks, we do have pickleball striped at Bob Newton Family Park, and it is used constantly. So this will be a nice addition. Funding for this project is allocated in the City Council adopted fiscal year 23-24 Parks Operation Fund and the Parks Improvement Fund. Timing of approval of this project will allow it to be completed before the end of summer. Council approval is required to authorize this project. The alternatives are to adopt this resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into the contract or take no action. Staff recommends the city council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Knife River Corporation Northwest for the pickleball courts and parking lot project at Keizer Rapids Park. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Questions, Counselor Cross?
Thank you, Mr. Lawyer. I appreciated, you sounded like a game show host. That was fantastic.
Not intentional.
I liked you woke me up. So my question is, how will that affect the summer and the kids and the families that go there with that construction?
Not a lot. There will be some impact to the sand volleyball because the courts are being constructed next to the sand volleyball courts. And the parking will be between the pickleball courts and the existing parking lot. So there will be some disruption, I will say, but the sand volleyball will still be available and for use during construction of this.
So it's basically just the courts that will not be, that they're working on, like that area?
Yeah, the courts are closest to the sand volleyball.
Okay.
Court, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Lawyer, just out of abundance of caution, that is a significant difference between 635,000 and 462,000 and change.
Right.
Did we have a conversation with Knife River and look at their bid compared to like the engineer's estimates and just make sure that nothing was missed so we don't have to come back around and go, oops, they forgot and we have to spend more?
I did not have a conversation with Knife River. I reviewed their bid. I reviewed their subcontractors. I believe their bid is solid, and I'm not worried about them building it for the bid price. We've worked with them on many projects over the years. The concrete sub, because Knife River does primarily excavation and paving, okay? They don't do concrete. Their concrete subcontractor is Salem Concrete Paving. They've done work for us before. We couldn't be happier.
Okay.
Honestly, we talked with Salem Concrete about this project when initially we were planning on just pouring a concrete slab, a very large one, obviously for 6 courts, with rebar in it. And Robert Johnson, our parks manager, did some research, talked with pickleball folks, and they suggested or recommended that for the long-term structural integrity of the concrete, to do pre-stressed concrete. Now, I've never built or had a pre-stressed project done in my tenure with Keizer. So we reached out to Salem Concrete, who we trust, and talked to them because I was concerned that it was going to raise the price a lot. And they told us, no, we'll do it, it's about the same price. It's a little bit more, but it's not significant.
Okay.
And we went that way, and they were actually the subcontractor for 2 of the 6 bids that we received. So I'm really confident and really happy that Knife River got the job.
Okay, I just had to ask.
Good, very good. And I have to say one thing about this project in the bids, just because it's a bit unique. We have the 6 bids we received, we had 2 bids with the exact same price. Exact same price, $575,000. The first bid we opened, the last bid we opened. They were the second lowest bid. They asked, what are we gonna do? I said, well, I don't really know. Don't have to worry about it right now because you're not the low bid. But if they were, I learned, we literally draw a name out of a hat to break the tie.
We have a bucket for that.
Sounds
So I just wanted to share that because
Great
it's,
plan.
in all the projects I've been around in my time here, which is a long time, I've never seen that happen before. So to the penny. So,
Wow.
okay.
We do have a bucket for that. Okay, Counselor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question was actually much the same as Councilor Starr's, only I was just curious about, as you reviewed these bids, what was the big difference between the $1 million bid and the 400?
I really don't know, honestly. The company that gave the $1.1 million bid really wanted to make a lot of money, I think. And I think honestly that Knife River, honestly was looking for some work for the summer. Saw this as an easy project, easy get in, get out, make some money and move on. It's not uncommon to see a really high bid versus a lower bid in most projects. This one is quite a big spread. I really don't know why, other than somebody was looking, maybe that they were really busy this summer, wanted to put a bid in it, and if they were gonna get it, they were gonna make a lot of money.
Follow up?
So was it just the amount of time pretty much that the project would have taken?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
because, you know, all the other bids, when you throw that high bid out, the other bids, the other 5 bids were within reasonable spread,
Okay,
or what I would consider a reasonable spread.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. It's been my experience doing a lot of construction projects. There's a contractor, if they're busy, they will do it for a price though. If they'll say, you know, hey, I've got a lot of work, but for the right price, I'll push other things aside and get this one done. So it's not uncommon to see an outlier like that, like Mr. Lawyer said.
Any further discussion? All right. We have the motion on the table, right? Or have we done that? I lost track.
I don't think
Okay.
that we.
I think that we were still on the question, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much. All right, so we need to go ahead and put a motion on the table. Council President Starr.
I move the Keizer City Council adopt resolution R2024, authorizing the city manager to award and enter into an agreement with Knife River Corporation Northwest for pickleball courts and parking lot.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt resolution R 2024, authorizing the city manager to award and enter into an agreement with Knife River Corporation Northwest for pickleball courts and parking lot. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Item 8E, which is the mayoral appointment to the Artificial Turf Field Management Proposal Review Team. And page, there it
I'll
is,
take that.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is a big project and feel it'd be wise to have somebody from the council on this review team as we look at different proposals of how to operate and maintain the new artificial turf field. So requesting an appointment to that committee.
Thank you.
We also have somebody from the Parks Committee has appointed somebody to be on it also.
Okay. Can you give a sense of, so we have, we'll have council, parks, and then whether representation will be on the committee?
We have Mr. Johnson, the superintendent of the parks, Mr. Lawyer, myself, and another staff appointee, and I feel like I'm leaving somebody out.
Okay.
Parks and council.
Okay.
Yeah, it will come to me after the meeting.
All right, probably. All right, I did send an email to Councilor Cross, and Councilor Cross agreed to serve in this capacity. So I'd like the motion to read to appoint Councilor Cross to serve on this committee. Council President Starr?
I move to appoint City Councilor Soretta Cross to serve on the Request for Proposals Review Committee for the Artificial Turf Field Maintenance and Operations Proposals.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Councilor Cross to serve on the Request for Proposals Review Committee for the Artificial Turf Field Maintenance and Operations Proposals. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Item 8F, Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments Master Services Agreement Preview. Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you again. This item is only a preview. Just wanted to get it out in front of you to take a look at it. No action needed yet. We can bring it back to you on the 20th, but the COG provides a multitude of services in addition to what we pay our membership for. And a lot of cities within the 3-county region of Polk, Marion, and Yamhill County use services like GIS, transportation planning. So what they've done this year is put out a master services agreement so that if the cities decide that they want to do additional work, special services, then there's an agreement set forth with hourly rates for those services. and they're asking all of their member entities to pass the master services agreement. It doesn't commit us to using any of their services. Our dues are going up at a rate that's expected, given the hyperinflation, by about $1,000. And yep, so we'll bring it back to you on the 20th if you're all right with it. And obviously, take any questions back to them that you may have, or if I can answer it now, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions on the master services agreement from the Council of Governments? Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Brown, how much are our dues going to be?
They are going up from 28,900 to 29,000.
No,
I'm sorry, 23,925 to 24,982.
And so for that 24,000, so, because when I read this master services agreement, there were hourly fees in there, save for like the 10-hour legal library service. What do we get for our $24,000 membership exactly?
Yeah, it's a fair question. What we get is lobbying on legislative issues, them doing some bit of communication for between the local units of government.
I'm sorry, the what government?
Communication between the member units of government, so all the cities and the counties, and
transportation.
yeah, they cover, SCATS comes under that, and some of the planning services. The services that would come under these rates would be if we wanted to use them to do specific work on a UGB, then it might come under this master services agreement. They also are just last year applied for a grant for our economic opportunities analysis, and that wasn't without any additional charge. So they have done some work for us. The stuff they did convening on the last year over the urban growth boundary too last year came under our normal dues. So they try to provide some level of benefit before they start incurring special projects. But I think if we were long-term special project on the UGB, that's when we'd say, okay, they would want us to get a agreement, a work order under this master services agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So as you're reading this over, I would encourage you to email those questions to Mr. Brown so that those questions can get to the Council of Governments and to Scott Dadson, who's the Executive Director. And one of the other things with the Council of Governments is that these are shared resources across the 3 counties. So as each of the member organizations, actually governments need these services, they are available, readily available to all of us in this region. So it is a collaborative, and it is officially what's called an ORS 190 organization. Tribal members, counties, cities, special districts are all members. So thank you for that. All right, let's go to item 8G, the civil forfeiture settlement decision.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Lindsay.
So last meeting, before your work session, we had an executive session. And in that executive session, there was discussion. It was privileged discussion. And so without getting into the actual details of it, because you guys hold that privilege, I can say that there was a concurrence of idea about a resolution to a forfeiture case that Keizer is currently a part of. And because we were in exec session, you cannot make a decision in exec session. So we have to come out of exec session and actually make that decision. The work session didn't afford us that. And so, because you can't make a decision in a work session either. And so here we are at the next meeting to ask for your decision on that settlement of that one particular forfeiture case.
Thank you very much. Council President Starr?
I move that the Keizer City Council authorize the city manager to enter into a settlement agreement regarding the ongoing civil forfeiture that is consistent with the prior discussions with outside counsel.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council authorize the city manager to enter into a settlement agreement regarding the ongoing civil forfeiture that is consistent with the prior discussions with outside counsel. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. That concludes administrative action. Council President Starr, the consent calendar, please.
Yes, we have a really long list of items for the consent calendar tonight. It consists of item A, approval of April 15th, 2024 regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Any reason to?
After 9 o'clock.
She's done pretty good.
Just getting going.
All right. Council President Starr, let's go ahead and move that.
I move that we adopt the consent calendar as presented.
Second?
Consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Other business, this time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. We handled the art issue. Anything else tonight from city staff?
Madam Mayor and Council, no, I do not have any additional items.
All right, council members?
I have one, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So we were kind of alluded to this under the item of the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments Master Services Agreement preview discussion. And I asked what our membership fees afforded us as a city. And one of the items that was mentioned was SCATS, or the Salem Keizer Area Transportation System. It's our version of the MPO as I understand it. So I understand and have done some, I guess, catch-up research and become aware of a vote that was taken at the March meeting of the SCATS Policy Advisory Committee that I personally was not aware of as a city council member. And that was that the Policy Advisory Committee, and I'm hoping that Mr. Lindsay can maybe, if he will, opine on how this process it can be expected to unfold, or how it should have unfolded. In regards to the SCATS Policy Advisory Committee, voted by a 4-3 vote to give the city of Salem a second seat at the table and a second vote, which when you look at the makeup of the SCATS Transportation, or the SCATS Policy Advisory Committee, that for all intents and purposes takes it from what I would perceive to be a regional committee vote, a regional committee, really down to a Salem committee. So I don't know if it's Mr. Lindsay or you, Madam Mayor, as our representative to that, who voted in favor of giving Salem the second vote, could explain to me how that happened and we didn't know.
If the question is, what procedure should have taken place?
Yep.
Legally speaking, so you guys have your policies and guidelines. And correct me if I'm assuming, is this a board where the mayor is part of, where you're not just a liaison, you're on the board, you're a voting member?
Correct.
Okay, so in those instances, your rules do say, somewhere here, that if you're in a situation like that, right, if you're a liaison, you're not voting clearly, and so you're not you're kind of just observing. But there is a situation where when you're on a board and commission, outside committees, I guess is what it's called on, it's 18.11. And it does say that, and SCATS is named under it too. The Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Study is SCAT. So that's one of them. And it says, for non-counselor appointments, and mayor shall appoint the council members to liaison and non-liaison positions for outside committees, first meeting in January. That's not, sorry. It says each council member shall keep the mayor and councilors informed of their involvement in all outside committees. So I think that's to your complaint. And then it says the particular outside committee shall determine any attendance requirements, right? So the committee has its own requirements, and other matters concerning membership, voting, and procedure subject to council approval. So what that seems to say is the committee determines its attendance requirements and its other matters, but it does say subject to council approval. So I think the idea is things that would affect attendance requirements or other matters concerning membership, voting, or procedure should technically come back to the council for approval. So you should hear about it.
Yeah.
We didn't.
That's because it's not done. So if I might,
Actually, I have some items I'd like to make sure that is out in the open so that you can then respond. So this topic actually came up before the SCATS Policy Advisory Committee at the meeting at the end of February. And in that meeting, it is, from what I've watched and read in the minutes, Salem Mayor Chris Hoy, presented his position for Salem getting a second vote at the table. So then it comes back around at the, I think it was presented, that was presented at the February meeting. At the March meeting is when the vote actually occurred. And I watched the meeting multiple times. I've read all of the meeting packets, and there was a vote to bring in the city of Almsville as a voting member. And instead of just doing that and keeping it as it was, one vote per entity that was represented on that policy committee, there was, I could make some conjecture, but I will save that. There was an amendment, or there was a motion put on the table. There was a friendly amendment that was made. It was not accepted. And then there was an alternative or a replacement motion that was made that tied the acceptance of the city of Almsville to the SCATS policy advisory to the to giving Salem a second vote. And when I watched that meeting, nobody in that room could give a solid reason about why Salem should get a second vote other than because. And I understand that they're a larger city, but if you were going to take the opportunity, and when I say you, at this point, I mean the Policy Advisory Committee, we're going to take the opportunity to bring or to give Salem a second vote when you bring in a city of, and just some quick internet checking, a city of 4,000 and some people to the table, and utilizing the argument that it was proportional representation, I think is the phrasing that was used in the PowerPoint. I'm confused why we wouldn't have taken that opportunity to evaluate full proportional representation on the SCATS Policy Advisory Committee by reviewing whether you wanted to do weighted voting, whether you wanted to keep Almsville and the city of Turner at one vote, even Polk County at one vote, Marion County, and I know that there was a table with percentages that were brought up, and we represent 14% of the vote. or 14% of the population, and Polk County represents 19% of the population, but we still missed an opportunity to do proportional representation in terms of voting. And here we are at the May meeting, and I guess to your point, it's not done yet, and it's not. It took 9 months, I believe, when Turner was added to the SCATS Policy Committee to get that pushed through. I'm just concerned that that hasn't been brought forward to the City Council at all as information, nor was it brought forward for us to give an opportunity to give our consensus prior to the vote in March.
Okay, well, you've listened to a great deal, and what I also recognize is that without having asked me in advance, that you just drop it here as, you know, I've heard a great deal about process matters and perception is reality. So you've given a summary of over a year's worth of work and conversation by leaders from across our 2-county region. And you've also put it out there for a rather quick response without asking me to bring my notes, without asking me to be prepared for this conversation. So perception is reality. Perception is not so much conversational, but it's more gotcha. And that's pretty sad. But to the point of where this is in the process, it isn't done. And there's been a great deal of conversation with the members of SCATS, for those who are watching, are Salem, Keizer, Marion County, Polk County, the Salem-Keizer School District, Salem-Keizer Transit, and ODOT, the city of Turner. So because of federal census, Almsville is being brought in, and we've been having the conversation under what circumstances and voting. What was also left out is that Mayor Sehoff from Almsville was at that same meeting, along with Mayor Hoy, because both were invited to come and speak to SCATS and to give some perspective on their representation and so forth. Another important thing for people to recognize with SCATS is that the voting is relatively minor when it comes to the operation of SCATS. It is basically a consensus driven, and is designed that the 2 major planning documents, the Metropolitan Planning, the MTP, and the Regional Transportation System Plan, RSTP, have to be approved unanimously. Everything else is by vote. And in my 18 years on SCATS, I was appointed by Mayor Christopher way back in 07, 08. Spent 12 years working on the Salem River Crossing and other fun projects like that. We've had 1 vote that was close, and that was it. So I think that if we would like to have a conversation, and this does come around to the council, all of these will be sent back. The other piece that is also missing from this conversation is that there's been additional conversation with the school district. We are very unusual in having the school district on our MPO. And there's been a lot of discussion, should they be there? Should they be a voting member? So we're still very much kind of working through that, and I had the opportunity to visit with the leadership from the school district to kind of feel that out. One of the changes that's happened with the school district is the addition of Safe Routes to School, which is a program that I know all of you have been very supportive of. From a policy point of view, the school district is not a general service government providing transportation infrastructure, but part of the conversation has been about what is this voting structure going to look like going forward. This is not done. We're going to be revisiting this. We've asked the school district to come back with their perspective and continue the conversation. Is this ready for consideration by the jurisdictions? No, it's not. We've been working on this for over a year. The conversation is still proceeding. And yes, I did vote for adding that additional seat to bring that to the jurisdictions. And there's a great deal of thought and a great deal of effort that went into all of those conversations. And at 9:40 at night, to drop this in and say, you know what, I'm just going to throw this out there and open up a large conversation at the end of a meeting. I think we can do better when it comes to actually talking about complex issues with our partners.
I think we can do better. We've had since February to talk about it, and it hasn't been brought forward. At the 55-minute mark of that March meeting, Mayor Clark, there was an item brought forward by Polk County Commissioner Mordhorst, who wanted to amend the motion to take away the Salem Keizer School District's vote. And the response from the school district at that point was, I've only mentioned it to the school district board, but we haven't had an opportunity to have a thorough conversation about it. So, you're right, perception is reality, and the perception I think that maybe some of us have is that you voted to give Salem a second vote without bringing it forward to seek consensus of your colleagues on the city council. And I even wrote down a quote that you made during that meeting that said, Keizer will only have 1 out of 10 votes, and I'm okay with that. And that was a gut punch to me as someone who sits on the city council and took an oath to represent all of the citizens of Keizer. I'm not okay with that. And I would be curious to hear if any of my other colleagues have opinions on that. But as we heard earlier tonight as well, it's about building goodwill with our other neighboring jurisdictions, of which one is Marion County. And I don't think that they were in support of this vote either. So I'd be interested if any of my other colleagues have any thoughts on it.
And while I appreciate that you would like to engage in an in-depth conversation on this issue at this late hour, you have not allowed for me to bring my notes, for us to be prepared for this conversation. This is also premature because this is not done. This is not a proposal that has been forwarded from SCATS out to the jurisdictions. It is still a work in progress. And quite frankly, it is disappointing to frame this in what feels very much like a gotcha moment rather than engaging in a thorough conversation about a very, very complex issue that has been the source of a great deal of tension among the jurisdictions for over 1.5 years. So I would suggest that we would have a more in-depth conversation at the appropriate time with materials being provided rather than a 5-minute review that is missing some of the key elements and key information late in the agenda.
With all due respect, Mayor, if you've been working on it for 1.5 years, you would know the information much better than I would that's just done some research and figured out about the vote. So I appreciate you saying that it's a late hour, and it is, but we've also had since February to hear about this vote and hear about these conversations, and we haven't heard about them until it was brought up. And I understand that you're saying it's not done yet, but it's a vote, and I would like to hear what my other colleagues have to say.
I have taken many votes on SCATS. I've defended our projects. We have not lost a single project that has needed to come to Keizer with our federal funding. The most important one being right now, VERTA, which I've had to go to the mat to make sure that those dollars don't disappear someplace else. And I put a great deal of time and effort to make sure that Keizer's interests are represented on SCATS, to make sure the dollars are coming to the Salem-Keizer area for these projects that are federally funded. There's a lot of projects that need to be completed. We are in the queue for Wheatland, which is the next project that Keizer has identified to come forward. We are enjoying the benefits of safe routes to schools, which is something that we were not getting before. So SCATS as a whole is a consensus organization that we are working hard to make sure we are getting dollars here to build projects, to build out a system that is, like so many other things in this region, antiquated and need to be brought up to 2024 standards. So again, to engage in let's have a quick drop this on me at the last minute and not even have the courtesy to say, I have a concern, I have a question, and to find out more. There were some things in your recital that are not accurate. And
I watched it. I took the notes from the meeting.
Excuse me. There are some pieces that are not accurate because they don't include the history and the structure of SCATs. And I'm delighted that you've taken an interest in the MPO because finding alternates and people to work with us on these very, very important federal projects has been very difficult. So I would welcome that conversation, but I do not believe it is the appropriate time to say, we're just going to jump in this right now and to second guess the SCATS process with our fellow jurisdictions from the last year and a half as we've been trying to work out a process that we haven't had to use in 20 years to bring in a new jurisdiction.
Well, the appropriate time, with all due respect, Mayor, would have been before the February meeting when you started talking about it, or better yet, even in March before you put the vote and voted to give Salem a second seat. So I would like to hear from my colleagues.
I understand that at this point. We do, I would appreciate the opportunity to put together materials to share and to be able to make sure that we have all the information necessary and also an accurate recounting of where the process is at this time. We did have a meeting with the school district and I can bring that material forward. But no, I'm not going to get into a gotcha moment.
It's not a gotcha moment.
Yeah, it is.
It's literally trying to have a conversation and bringing something to the table that should have been brought to the table in February, if not March. It's not premature because per the staff person at the COG, the only two items that have to go back to the jurisdictions for a less than unanimous vote are a TIP and or the co-op agreement itself. But this doesn't even have to come back there because it doesn't meet those two criteria per his statement at the March meeting. So, I mean, I can put a motion on the table to allow our colleagues to say their piece, but I feel like it's important for our community and our citizens to hear that we literally just gave Salem a second vote. And I don't trust Salem, with all due respect, I don't trust Salem with the best interests of Keizer. That was demonstrated loud and clear with their attempt to put a payroll tax on our citizens. So I do think it's appropriate to hear if a majority of, and if I'm alone in not agreeing with the fact that this should have come to the city council before you voted, then so be it. But I think there needs to be a public, I would like to hear from my colleagues at the table, at the dais, about whether they would have liked to have had input in this vote before it happened.
And I'm going to remind you on a couple of things. One, I have never had to bring back votes on SCATs to this body.
But you never gave votes away to Salem before.
So is that the issue, is that the city of Salem has asked for a second representative on this body? And we've had lengthy conversations about that. And again, it will not change, but to hear that it is based on an anger and distrust of another jurisdiction, again, I think this requires a different conversation, and it's disappointing that we would be talking about the operation of the Salem-Keizer Metropolitan Organization, which has all these different jurisdictions working together to deliver transportation projects, trying to conflate that with the payroll tax. These are completely unrelated. And these are also, this is a jurisdiction that is federally organized and operated, not state and not local. The
Mayor?
MPO is federal.
Polk County didn't agree to it, Marion County didn't agree to it, so.
And City of Turner.
And City of Turner didn't agree to it, as you know.
Mm-hmm. I was there.
Yes, but you didn't talk to us before you voted. Counselor Cross, would you have liked?
Council President Starr,
Madam
We
Mayor,
are not going to be engaging in
I think
an
that
attempt at a gotcha where we have
I am not trying to get a gotcha. I
Yeah,
just
this-
want it brought forward to our community that none of us had the opportunity to provide any input into the vote that gave the city of Salem a second vote and took it away from being a regional and put it to a completely Salem-centric. And you can say that it's premature all you want, but you should have brought it forward to the council and got our consent and our input before you voted to give Salem a second seat at the table. You didn't even bring up about doing a proportional representation for the other entities that were at the table. I'm sure Marion County would have appreciated that. I'm sure we would have appreciated that, but we weren't even given the opportunity to give input into the vote. So you can sit there all you want and talk about this being a gotcha moment, and you weren't given time to prepare. You didn't bring it forward to us and give us an opportunity to prepare or to give our input into the vote. So if you think that's a gotcha moment, how do you think it felt when we found out that you gave a vote to give Salem a second seat at a regional transportation work group policy advisory SCATS? That, to use your words, perception is reality, felt like we had been completely blindsided to find out that we just gave Salem a second vote and we got nothing in return.
So I'm going to put a pause there because the perception and the characterization of the work that's being done at SCATS to take Salem from 1 out of 10 to 2 out of 10, Keizer being 1 out of 10, ODOT being 1, and also working really hard to make sure our small jurisdictions, Turner and Almsville, are having a seat at the table, even though they are small jurisdictions. There was a lot of conversation about making sure we had representation from our rural communities. So there's been a lot of work that's gone into this. And again, it would have been really respectful to actually have asked the question. Let me know that you want to hear more about this process and where we are in the process, because it is not complete. And there is a point where it goes back to each jurisdiction for approval. And that's where every single jurisdiction, the general governments, not the special districts, just the general governments, are going to be approving that next step if they want to do so. If we do nothing, it stays exactly the way it is.
Well, that was going to be, if we didn't get anywhere tonight, that was going to be what I would suggest and put a motion on the table, that we just not even have any more conversations about it. But I do believe that there is the opportunity for council member reports on the agenda. And I would encourage and I would like to hear from my colleagues, because I think they all have an opportunity to say their piece. And because I think it's important that it's on the record whether or not we support or we don't support having given Salem a vote, or having voted to give Salem a second seat. And Mayor, you can say that it's not complete, and I hear that, but it also would have been respectful. If you're going to talk about respect of getting a heads up, it would have been respectful for you to come back to your colleagues on the city council and get our input into what we think should have been the vote on whether or not to give Salem a second seat at the table.
Again, is very, I would love to bring the city council up to speed on the MPO, how it operates. I'm gratified that there's interest in the MPO more than delivering the federal projects to the city of Keizer, to Salem, Keizer, Marion County. And the characterization of the work that's been done, I find to be inaccurate.
There's been no characterization. There's been
I believe there was a comment
request.
about, excuse me, I believe it was a comment about mistrusting Salem in your comments, and when we
I
were
do
talking about.
mistrust them. They tried to put a payroll tax on the citizens of Keizer that would have taken $3.2 million
I'm not
out of
arguing
our
that point.
community. Why would I trust the city of Salem or city councilors to have the best interest of Keizer at heart? If they were going to do that, why would I trust them? I don't. I'm sorry.
And I believe that at this point, you know, the bias and the concerns regarding the operation of the MPO need to be discussed in a more thorough fashion, but this is not that. And I'm finding it very disappointing to characterize the work of the MPO, which has been successful for decades, to bring it down to, well, I don't trust one of our jurisdictions, therefore, one vote, two votes is really not going to make a difference in the operation of the MPO. But the characterization of one of our partner organizations, our partner governments that we work so closely with on just about everything we do in this region is just deeply disappointing.
Well, then I'm a huge disappointment to you, and that I apologize for. But at the very least, you could have brought it to the city council here for all of us to give our input, and you didn't. And I've heard you deflect, and I've heard you say that my characterization of the other entities and the work of the MPO is a disappointment to you, and for that, I apologize. But what I have yet to hear is your reason for why you voted for that and why you voted not to have any conversation with us. That's all I'm asking, is that you should have brought it forward, and I believe that Mr. Lindsay even said that. And your justification that it's not a done deal, maybe it is, maybe it's not. Well, but you didn't bring it forward to even get our input. And so that is what I asked for a response on, and I've heard deflection on many other parts, but I haven't heard your answer to that.
Thank you. I'd be happy to recreate my testimony and my, what I said at the March meeting. And
I heard it.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you did. Our colleagues may or may not have, and happy to have that conversation at another time. But again, you did not ask me to bring that tonight. You did not let me know that that's something you want to talk about. So thank you for that heads up.
It should have been here in February, and it should have been brought forward in March. If it wasn't, it should have been brought forward in April, and it wasn't.
And I thoroughly disagree.
So either we can continue on with other council members and other business, if they have other orders of business, other business, or I don't know what but I
do. The next step in the agenda is staff updates.
Well, actually, I think there might be some other people that have other business on the agenda.
Do we have other business to bring forward tonight? Okay, staff updates, Mr. Brown?
Madam Mayor and Council, we have no updates. I have no updates for you.
Mr. Wood?
Just looking forward to seeing all of you next week at our budget committee meeting. It's going to be amazing.
Fantastic. And the print copies are available. Ms. Bissett?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Chief?
Thank you. We're in the middle of the hiring process. We had 3 laterals apply. We've interviewed one of them. We liked him a lot, but he's also being sought after by Portland, Clackamas, and Washington County. So he's from Lafayette, Louisiana, and played college football with them back in the day. Anyways, so we're not really sure where that's going to end up. We'll interview 2 more in like 2 weeks, and then we are interviewing 12 other entry-level officers starting tomorrow. So hopefully get some really cool people hired on.
All right. And will that bring us to full staffing?
It's close. Well, we also looking at a community outreach crime analyst position as well. So working on the job description for that one.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Lawyer?
Nothing, right? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. I do want to mention, Mr. Lawyer, isn't Public Works Day coming up?
Oh, it is, yes. It's coming up on June, let me get the date. 18th. I had 14th in my head and I thought that's wrong. 18th, Tuesday the 18th.
That's Flag Day.
From 10 to 2 at Keizer Rapids Park.
All right. June 18th, 10 to 2, Keizer Rapids.
Yep.
Mark your calendars. Counselor Kohler had, something for Mr. Lawyer?
I do, I dig that. That's,
Oh, my God.
Oh,
but
wah, wah.
I had several citizens, when I talked to you earlier, I said I had something, I remembered what it was. So I've had several citizens talk to me about the welcome to Keizer sign that keeps getting, it's the drunk stop. Is that what that's called?
The former Public Works Director, two Public Works Directors before me deemed it the drunk catcher. That's where I heard it. That's,
Yeah.
goes back 25 years.
So if, with the mayor's permission, I'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit about the history of that and let the people know that we're not responsible for getting that fixed.
Okay?
Because I get a lot of people saying, when can we get this fixed? Come on, you guys need to get on this.
Yeah,
I can give you what I know. And what I know is, I'm not gonna say is 100% accurate, but it is what I know. That area, many years ago, was reinvigorated. It was run over, it was a hump, and cars kept running over it. And I don't know how or who spearheaded the brick structure, but that was a cooperative effort between the city of Salem and the city of Keizer. Salem was the lead on that, and we each had our signs on it, welcome to Keizer, welcome to Salem. At the time it was finished, Northwest Natural Gas, who has a facility just south of that, was responsible for the maintenance of the grounds. Salem built it, Salem maintained the brick, and that part of it, Keizer paid for the power for the lights, which we still do today. Over time, I don't know what happened, but the gas company no longer takes care of the maintenance of the grounds, the grass and the trees and all that. I believe that's a Salem responsibility. It is still Salem's responsibility to repair any damage done every time it's hit, and Keizer still pays for the power. That's as much as I can tell you, and I believe that is accurate history of that area.
follow up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if a citizen wanted to talk to somebody about when that was going to be done, who would they call?
The city of Salem, and I really don't know what department to direct them to, honestly. I would start with, maybe the street operations manager, okay? Because it's in a street, but it may be parks. I really don't know what division or department in Salem is responsible for it.
Thank you. I just wanted everybody to know that we don't have anything to do with it.
We don't, and the ironic part of this whole thing is, as we know, it gets hit, and it gets hit somewhat regularly, but it also goes 3, 4, 5 years without getting hit. That doesn't get any attention. It's when it gets hit 3 times in 2 months that it gets attention. So, and it happens over and over again. This is, I mean, it goes in a cycle. It sits there and it gets nice and it looks good for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. And then it gets hit once. It gets repaired, it gets hit again. Then it gets hit again before it gets repaired. And it's happened multiple times over the decades, so.
Is, just a little bit of follow-up on that is, at SCATS, I have mentioned a number of times to, thank you, I'm glad you found that funny, to turn that into a proper roundabout, because it would be safer, it would be better operationally. I don't know what that design would look like, but that has come up. It just hasn't risen to the level of design and funding necessary, and I have the sneaking suspicion it's not large enough to be a federal project. It would have to be a local, and, you know, that's a street fund issue.
Correct.
But it is something that has been brought up to Salem about what would it take to turn it into a proper, safely operated roundabout. So we'll keep pushing that out there. All right, Mr. Witham?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
All right, Mr. Lindsay?
I was able to go to the Oregon City Attorney Association Spring Conference put on by the League of Oregon Cities and the OCAA in Hood River this last Friday and Saturday. And so I was able to get some legislative updates and some helpful information, and even a really good presentation on burnout. So if anybody wants to get some helpful tips on burnout, I think we could all use them, but lawyers in particular apparently get burned out, and so they try to help us out by teaching us such things. But I really appreciate the opportunity because, we all get better by training, so thank you for paying for it.
I believe we get the benefit of that training, so you're welcome. All right, thank you very much. That takes us to council member reports. Councilor Cross.
I just want to have everybody reminded that the pancake breakfast has been moved. So it's not Mother's Day, it's now on the 20th. So same time, 19th, just kidding.
19th.
Sorry, it's like 10:05. So it's the following Sunday. And same price, still served it. It's just allowing the moms that are usually involved. So celebrating it on the end of the parade and that good stuff. This week, I'm going to attend, I'm on the committee for the UGM Samanka House luncheon at the convention center. There'll be 500 people plus there. So that's super exciting that all that money goes to Samanka House here in town. And that, you can visit, and usually they do those tours on Friday. And then I just want to support Council President Starr to say that I will not be in support of signing that Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments until that second vote for Salem is undone.
Thank you very much. Councilor Duran.
I know it's late, I'll be brief. I would like to make sure this SCATS discussion gets brought back up at a later date.
It will.
Kathy, you said the votes don't really matter, so why give them a second vote?
I would love to spend time again to bring all of those pieces. I just wasn't asked to do that tonight.
Yeah.
It's been a year of conversations and a lot of work among the different jurisdictions. So would love to be able to bring all that back, but this was not the way to do it.
So, just so you know, I not only mistrust Salem in this, I mistrust Chris Hoy, because he was the only Salem city councilor that was on the council that voted against the continuing the third bridge. So that still bothers me. I spent a lot of time on that, as you did, as a lot of us
12
did.
years, 12
And
years.
So, Chris Hoy coming to ask for a second vote to me is,
That's not how
a waste of energy. So
Yeah, that's not how that went down, but I'll be happy to explain that later.
that's just that's my 2 cents, and I'm
Thank you.
done.
Just to reiterate, the two mayors were invited to come and speak. Counselor Trevor Phillips is the Salem representative to SCATS, and he represents Salem, just as I represent Keizer. His predecessors were West Salem counselors, just for the record. But that was by invitation at that particular meeting. So just want to let you know. Council President Starr.
Well, I'm sure you'll be surprised to hear that I just want to reiterate that while you continue to say this isn't how it should have went down, I will continue to reiterate that we should have heard from you in February, we should have heard from you in March, and absent those two, we should have heard from you in April about updates about this vote.
Thank you. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a number of different things that went on the last couple of weeks. First, I'd like to encourage each of us to complete our city manager evaluation, since Michelle is not here, because I'm sure that she would have told us that. And of course, I attended several different meetings, which were a lot of fun, and we don't have time to listen to all that tonight. But when I get a call from Commissioner Cameron that says, I don't understand this, I don't know why this is, I have a hard time understanding personally why we're giving Salem 2 votes, Chariots a vote, Salem Keizer School District a vote. Now, where do the rest of us fall in? And I'm not saying that all of it's wrong necessarily, but I just don't understand any of it. And now, we did talk a little bit about it. So, but I just don't understand it. I have a really hard time with Salem having an extra vote there.
Okay. Well, this is still a work in progress, and thank you for giving me a call to learn more about it. Counselor Hussman,
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
but you didn't.
So this past Saturday afternoon, I got to spend some time at the Bike Skills Fair held at Keizer Elementary. For being held in the middle of an atmospheric river, it was a great time. No, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that was, the river flows through it, yeah.
Yeah, weather notwithstanding, everyone really did have a blast. KPD was very
there.
much out and present and active, so Chief, thank you for that. It was great to see everybody out there. Keizer Fire District, Cycle Oregon, Northwest Hub in Salem were all out there. Truly, everyone's spirits were up, and it was a wonderful community event. About the only thing that didn't necessarily go the way of Hirsch and Marianne Sangster was the forecast. Shout out to Hirsch and Marianne Sangster, by the way. They did a wonderful job putting on that event. Congratulations again to our Madam Chair for Volunteer of the Quarter, Tammy Saldivar, for Transportation Safety Bike Ped Committee. Our next meeting on that, I guess, is Wednesday the 15th. I thought it was Thursday the 16th, but Wednesday the
Budget.
15th. Yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
6 p.m. in these here council chambers. That'll be a good time as always. And then because I got a couple messages about it, I have to address. I understand that there is a group of individuals coming to speak in Keizer sometime soon that are spreading lies and fabrications upon how elections are conducted in Marion County, state of Oregon, and even across the nation. So I would like to assuage the citizens and residents of Keizer to know that, first of all, the 2020 election results were legitimate. The 2022 election results are legitimate. And the way that the state of Oregon conducts elections with mail-in balloting is frankly the envy of the nation and even much of the world. So Oregon has a really incredible system of elections. Issues are very few in number, and as we come up on primary season, I think Keizer residents deserve to have the confidence of going out there and knowing that there are some real professionals behind elections in this area and in this state. They do their due diligence, they check their work, and they also show their work, and they give us a lot of confidence. So we should be very proud in how we carry out the primary, and everybody should vote with the full faith and confidence that their ballot is going to be counted.
Thank you very much. And the ballot box is open outside. Counselor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I attended the Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency Board meeting, and also the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast was a delightful event, and it was one of the highlights of my week, frankly. It was very nice. I also attended the Regional Healthcare Forum, and that was very enlightening to see what the state of healthcare in our region was and some of the reasons behind and the ways that we can do better. And so I appreciated that information. That was very, very useful. Last Wednesday, there was a concert of band, choir, and orchestra at Elsinore. It was all three McNary groups, and it was a wonderful concert and very well attended. And I think our choir went to state last weekend, and orchestra is going on Wednesday, and then band shortly after that. So we wish them the best of luck with that. 12th Night will be opening at McNary on May 15th and playing through the 18th, so just the one weekend. Big congratulations to McNary's culinary team. We heard that they made the nationals, and they ended up placing 6th nationally out of 48 teams.
Bravo.
So that was very impressive. And furthermore, our CTEC team in restaurant management placed 8th. So we had a really good
Nation. Yeah.
area showing with that. So really proud of that.
We know what's cooking.
Yeah, absolutely. I had on my calendar a Learn to Fish Day at Keizer Rapids Park. Bill, do you want to say a little bit more about that? Because I'm intrigued.
Excuse me, the date escapes you right at the moment, but that's a cooperative effort between the city of Keizer, Oregon Fish and Wildlife, and I think the Soil and Water Conservation District are involved at Keizer Rapids Park, and other areas too. It's not just Keizer Rapids Park, but it's a region-wide event, and it's happening on Saturday. I think it's the 11th,
Correct.
May 11th?
I have the
Okay.
18th.
So I got it off the Facebook page, it was 11.
The 11th, okay. All right, good, thank you. Sounds intriguing.
All right.
And then we have our formerly known as Irish Parade.
Blooming Iris Parade? Thank you.
Blooming Iris Parade, thank you, just missing the one word. And then, yeah, that's,
That is on the 18th.
that is on the 18th, yes.
That's the
Okay.
18th.
And I just feel compelled to say that I am disappointed that we are using precious Keizer City Council time to campaign for other people, not even necessarily involved with Keizer business. And I heard very little listening to understand, and I know we can do better.
All right. A number of the meetings I've been at over the last couple of weeks were already mentioned, and given the lateness of the hour, I look forward to seeing everybody at the Blooming Iris Open, the Blooming Iris Parade, and the Pancake Breakfast the third weekend in May. And also want to give a huge shout out to Tony Grove, Tony's Kingdom of Comics, Comic Book Day, atmospheric river notwithstanding, the line was around the building. The Keizer Community Food Bank had to come out and get the food because it was already overflowing the barrels. And that was after 2 hours. And a lot of people came to support our community food bank, but also to give a great deal of thanks to Tony for 17 years of running Tony's Kingdom of Comics. And we were all very happy to know that the business will continue under new ownership, who is coming on board, and he'll be working with them in the transition. So it's nice to see a Keizer business continue into its next iteration. With that, agenda input, I believe we mentioned budget. So next Monday, Tuesday, and if we need to, Thursday, we'll be in meeting as budget committee.
Is that here?
Last time I checked. And then Monday, May 20th at 7 PM, we will meet in regular session. And then Monday, June 3rd, we'll meet in regular session. And at the next meeting, I will be asking for council to approve me calling in on Monday, June 3rd, as I will be out of state. So I'll bring that as an agenda item for your consideration. With that, that is the end of the agenda. The time is 10:17, and we are adjourned.